Chapter 9:31. 80 minutes after the scenario started, in the city center. By then, Feng Bujue had already walked around the city to set up all the necessary settings for his game. Then he arrived at this place. A castle. Brother Ju looked at the large castle in the distance and mumbled, "Your Excellency's taste in architecture is lacking." The Your Excellency that he mentioned was none other than Sam Montier. In fact, when he first entered the scenario, Feng Bujue had already noticed Sam Montier's presence because the fog around him carried the latter's energy. From a data perspective, it was like a fingerprint or a DNA sequence. With one glance, one could tell who the owner was. Speaking of which, why are you hiding in Nuka City? What are you doing? Feng Bujue mumbled to himself as he headed toward the castle. Just as he was about to jump over a stream of lava, suddenly, you're right. A rap with its own rhythm drifted into his ears. "I've been searching high and low for you." Who would have thought? Another similar voice followed. What a waste of effort. As he said that, two shadows floated in front of Brother Ju and stood several meters away from him. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and looked at the two before him. "I'm sorry, but I am Indy." Indy looked like a black man, but he was not a human, but a humanoid creature with 4 arms. "I am Indy." Indy was also a humanoid creature. His body was purple, and his neck had gills that looked like a shark's. There were 4 small eyes on his face, but he had no nose. These two people were both wearing loose, long-sleeve shirts, crop pants, and sneakers. There were also a bunch of exaggerated pendants hanging around their necks. They were dressed like rappers. "Oh," Brother Ju answered neutrally and asked, "I wonder why you two are looking for me." We have been looking for you for so long," Feng Bujue. Indy replied. "Master Sam Montier." Yao. "Che, do you want us to bring you back?" Indy continued. "Can we talk nicely?" Feng Bujue had only communicated with the man for less than a minute, and he was already feeling a headache coming on. Yo, Bujue, you don't understand." Indy replied with another rap. "This is called R.A. Rara rap." At this time, Fallen 4 flashed in front of Indy 3 and finished this sentence. "Huh?" Feng Bujue glared at them with his dead fish eyes. "With your standard, you dare to call yourselves rappers? How come I feel like you are not as good as the Whigs' Joy?" WH what? His voice trembled like a ghost. "You really have guts. Ha! How dare you?" Indy sang from the side. "How dare you say I'm not as good as the Whig?" Indy continued. "Do you believe that we will use our rhythm to burst your head open?" Fine. Just pretend I didn't say anything." Feng Bujue did not want to waste time arguing with them, because he felt like it would never end. "Aren't you bringing me to meet Sam Montier? I'll go with you." At the same time, somewhere on the western side of the city. Damn it, it has been almost an hour already. Huang Dachui wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and grumbled. "That be asterisk, Starred must be toying with us." "Not necessarily," Basic Man said. "I'm starting to believe that the man is telling the truth." "Oh?" Mystic King was confused. "How do you know?" "Along the way, I have been thinking about it, and slowly realized some problems." Basic Man replied. "The time we ran into that man was only 30 minutes after the scenario started. In other words, he only used half an hour to create a robot that carried the virus and found our exact location. He even managed to infect all 4 of us." "Wait a minute," Huang Dachui said. "That robot might not have been created by him, right? Perhaps it was a summoned creature?" "If it was a summoned creature, after it was destroyed, its remains would have dissolved into white light and disappeared." Basic Man had already considered this point, so he replied without hesitation, "But the wreckage of the robot didn't disappear, which means that it is something from this world." "So, I see." Huang Dachui nodded. "Also," Basic Man immediately added, "I only thought about it later. If this person really wanted to kill us, he could have installed something on the robot that could kill us in a short period of time or make us lose our ability to move instantly. Why would he use a virus that would only take effect after 3 hours?" He sighed. Let's take a step back. You've seen his skills. If he had wanted to kill us, even without the robot, he could have at least killed 2 of us and injured 1 of us." When he said that, his teammates could not help but shiver. Even Huang Dachui, who thought highly of himself, had to agree, because the moment Brother Ju approached and held him hostage, he felt a sense of despair. If Brother Ju had wanted to kill at that time, Huang Dachui would have been the first to die. 2 seconds later, Basic Guy continued. Even though we haven't been in contact with that man for long, from his limited performance, we can already infer that he has an extremely strong psychological quality, a detection ability that is far beyond our understanding, a workmanship mastery that is at least level B, and a speed and endurance that is faster than me and Wonder Fighter. How can you tell his endurance? Odd Fighter interrupted. We have been following the clues he gave us for more than 50 minutes, and we have seen new clues at every location. Isn't that enough to explain the problem? Basic Man asked rhetorically. Yes. Odd Fighter thought for a moment and was immediately shocked. This means that he has been to every location we have been to during this period of time. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that his teammates are helping him do these things. Basic Man said in a low voice. But I don't think the possibility is high. Why is that? Huang Dachui asked. It's just a feeling, Basic Man said. Just think of it as the experience and intuition of a professional gamer who has been in the gaming circle for many years. His expression turned serious. I have a feeling that we have run into a very, very powerful opponent. He paused for half a second and said with a dark face, so powerful that he can wipe out all of us on his own. Stop joking. Huang Dachui's facial muscles twitched, and he used a shout to suppress his rising terror points. How can someone like that exist? Even Phantom Dawn would not be able to do something like that, right? Whether Phantom Dawn can do that or not, I have no idea. Right then, Mr. King added, I have no idea how powerful that man is. But the feeling that Brother Basic mentioned, I have it as well. Hey, if you put it that way. Huang Dachui wiped the sweat from his face. Doesn't that mean we have run into a super team that is stronger than a professional team? No. Stronger than regulation first team? Furthermore, we are now completely under their control. There is no need to be so pessimistic, Basic Man said, because we are all still alive, right? His words did not raise the morale of the team at all. Theoretically speaking, we still have a chance of winning. After giving it some thought, Basic Man said, First, the man said that he has a personal grudge with the boss in the scenario. That is good news for us. Perhaps he will be killed by the boss, right? Wonder Fighter said. Yes. Basic Man nodded. Secondly, even though he is very powerful, his teammates might not be that powerful. If he is killed by the boss, then we will have a 4-against-3 advantage. Even if he is not killed by the boss, if both sides are heavily injured, it will still be good news for us, Mystic King said. You have a point. Huang Dachui heard the optimistic prediction from his teammates, and he was instantly energized. That means our hope is not small. But we still have to solve the problem at hand, Basic Man said. Even if he is leading us by the nose, we have to be patient until we find the cure. He licked his dry lips. Whether the virus inside us is the Z virus or not, we have to find a way to cure it as soon as possible. Yes. Wonder Fighter added. When I first started sweating, I thought it was just a psychological effect, but now there's a slight fever and weakness in my limbs. If this continues, I am afraid. Just as they were talking, a new hint appeared before their eyes. The hints left behind by Feng Bujue were obvious. They were usually carved into the wall or the ground, a giant smiley face. Underneath the smiley face, there would be a simple puzzle. Brother Bujue was afraid that the puzzle would be too difficult. That pointed to the next location. The rising sun rises from the east. Flying water flows down. Huang Dachui looked at the 8 words carved under the smiley face and read them out loud. He muttered thoughtfully, then turned to look at Basic Man. What does it mean? Basic Man thought about it for 2 minutes before his expression relaxed. It means to walk 1 kilometer in the direction of 9 o'clock. Once he said that, Wonder Warrior and the Mystic Spirit Monarch were enlightened. Only Huang Dachui was still confused. How did you come to that conclusion? Sighed. Basic Man sighed. In any case, let us continue our journey. On the other hand, at Underworld Frontline, by then, Shao Tan, Xiao Ling, and Hua Jian had been the scenario for 1.5 hours already. Since the order given by Ruo Yu to Brother Zhu was to wipe out all the enemies within 2 hours, Shao Tan and the rest did not explore the plot further. In the limited time, they chose to try their best to search for items and skills on the map. As mentioned earlier, to get something good in the Thriller Paradise scenario, other than opening up specific storage areas by solving puzzles, most of the time, non-main quest items, including equipment, could be obtained through the method of finding. For example, there might be a Spider-Man bodysuit in a shop window by the street. It might be completely useless, but it might also be a set of excellent grade equipment with attributes. Another example would be wandering around in a sewer, and he might be able to find a series of weapons such as dual sabers, ame thorns, nunchaku, and long sticks. In other words, without the pressure of clearing the scenario, as long as the map was big enough, the players could enjoy the fun of exploration. For example, Shao Tan and the other two, who had good luck compared to Brother Zhu, had found 3 excellent quality items and 1 skill card within 90 minutes. The items were as follows. Name, fried shrimp wrist guard item type. Armor, quality, excellent, defense points. Medium element. Isolation special effect. When the wrist is hit by fire element attacks, it will reduce damage by 90%. Equip requirement. Level 25, bound after equip. Can be taken out of the scenario. Yes remark. A wrist guard made from the shell of the king lobster. It is wrapped in a golden, crispy stone fruit as decoration. This was a unique, excellent quality armor, and its uniqueness was probably the fried shrimp design and the remark that was full of complaints. Name, toilet bowl brush item type. Weapon quality, excellent. Offense points, weak element. None special effect. Comes with the skill Deadly Vortex, cooldown of 10 seconds. Equip requirement. Fighting a bound after equip. Can be taken out of the scenario. Yes remark. When your weapon skills reach a certain level, you will be able to clean up your opponent like a freshly washed toilet bowl. As mentioned above, a weapon filled with malice. Name, textbook style textbook. Item type. Other quality. Excellent, special effect. Causes the target to be depressed and unhappy for 45 minutes. Cooldown. 10 minutes, only effective against players. Equip requirement. None. Bound after 1 use. Can be taken out of the scenario. Yes. Note. Every year, we will overturn the content from last year and make some changes to the details. Then we will tell you that these changes are likely to appear in the exam-oriented education system you are in and affect your evaluation in this system. Then you'll have to buy this year's new set, and we, who make those books, will live for another year. Perhaps 100 years later, those literary works that touch people's hearts would still be remembered, and the teaching materials of the past 100 years would be used to wipe one's ass after another. But no matter what, we would continue to survive. As long as your way of acquiring knowledge is still tied to this disgusting test system, you will eventually be our little bitches. The effect of this item was also very good. It could be said that it had the same effect as draw a cross to curse you. Finally, they looked at the skills they had found. Name, narcissism skill card property. Active skill, disappears after 2 uses skill type. Sleuthing effect. When the skill is activated, the player's physical body will instantly enter the phase space and leave behind an invincible and damaged afterimage at the original location. After entering the phase space, the player's physical body will be able to move in a straight line, ignoring gravity, but the player will not be able to activate any skills and will not be able to come into contact with objects in the original space. After 5 seconds, the player's physical body will appear at the original location in a reasonable form, to avoid being embedded into walls or other objects. At the same time, the afterimage will disappear, and the damage suffered by the afterimage will be converted into stamina points. Cooldown, 30 seconds. Consumption, 70% of current stamina points learning requirement. Sleuthing A, level 43 note. The beauty is unparalleled, for whom the fragrance is spread. Judging from the effect of the skill, this skill card was at least up to the standard of a quasi-S rank skill. However, Because it was a version with a limited number of uses, the learning requirements were not very high. These were the results of Wang Tanji and the other two's search. Other than the skill card, which was obtained by Xiao Ling from a treasure chest that required her to solve a puzzle, the other 3 items were found through a carpet search. One of them was embedded in the advertisement board at the entrance of the restaurant. One was placed in the storage room next to the public toilet, and the last one was placed on a bookshelf in the library. Obviously, these items were not easy to find, but the Underworld frontline members still managed to find them with patience and luck. Of course, if Brother Ju were to search for them, he might be able to find them with his data perspective. But if he were to search with his luck alone, he might not be able to find them even if he spent 3 hours searching. After searching for tens of minutes, Xiao Tan and the rest decided to find a place with a relatively open view to rest. It feels like a long time has passed. Xiao Tan sat down on a bench in the park and let out a long sigh. I wonder how Brother Ju is doing. Xiao Ling sat down next to him and stretched lazily. I think you should be worried about the guys from the enemy team. Yes. Hua Jian stood to the side and added with a smile. The 2-hour time limit is almost up. With Feng Bujue's personality, if he says he will do it, he will do it. If he still hasn't taken care of the enemy by the 120th minute, he might even detonate a nuclear bomb. Ha ha ha. Xiao Tan laughed drily. You have a point. The 3 of them had just sat down and chatted for a while. But who would have thought? All of a sudden, a substantial darkness descended upon them. Instantly, the players' vision darkened, and they could not even see their own fingers. Not only Xiao Tan's group, at the same time, the Golden Warhammer team at the other end of the scenario also encountered the same situation. The next second, a whisper entered every player's ears. It's from another world. Come and see the true face of this city. Chapter 9:32. After the whispers, what followed was a cacophony of noise and chaos. The sound of liquid flowing, the wind blowing, the sound of boiling oil eating flesh, the sound of bones being crushed. The sound was so close. Angry growls, pained groans, maniacal laughter, bone-chilling sobs, each of them drilled into their ears. Just this auditory pressure alone was enough to make people feel as if they had fallen into hell. At that moment, it was not that the players did not have any lighting devices, but the darkness was like a raging beast, gripping all the light sources in the city tightly in its claws. Some people tried to shout, trying to communicate with their teammates, but they couldn't even hear the sound coming from their own throats. Some tried to wave their hands, trying to use their sense of touch to confirm the situation around them, but their fingertips could only touch waves of air that fluctuated between hot and cold. Fear and helplessness spread and grew in the players' hearts. Objectively speaking, this darkness did not last that long, but for those who were caught in it, it felt as long as an eternal night. Finally, after about 1 minute, the darkness retreated. A blood moon rose in the sky. The fog that was supposed to be the medium of connection had disappeared, and the real Nuka city appeared before the players' eyes. As far as the eye could see, there were rugged scorched earth, boiling rivers of blood, overgrown skeletons, wriggling corpses, flying demonic shadows, and so on. Countless terrifying things that could only appear in nightmares painted a magnificent scene of the Yellow Springs. All the strange noises had materialized into reality, becoming the real threat of death. At the western side of the city, where the Golden Warhammer team was. Beat, what is going on? Huang Dachui was panicking. Under the double influence of Virus Z and fear, he was sweating profusely, and his face was pale. Why did it suddenly become like this? It feels like we've suddenly transformed into an other world. Mystic King was still in shock, but compared to Huang Dachui, his terror points were much more stable. Wonder Fighter wiped away the cold sweat and said, I say, could this be caused by the man we met earlier? That is possible. Alkaline Man nodded. Perhaps he angered the boss or pushed it into the second stage, so Huang Dachui asked probingly. The situation before us is essentially because the boss of this scenario has gone all out? Who knows? Alkaline Man was indeed clueless about the situation. I'm more concerned about the drastic change to the scenario, will it affect our search for the antidote? Yeah. The mystic spirit monarch immediately reacted. Let's assume that the man really left the antidote for us. But if the antidote was left in the surface world, then wouldn't we not be able to get it? Yes. Basic man continued. Let's take a step back. Even if the antidote was transported to the inner world as well, look around. He paused for 2 seconds. Leaving aside the fact that there are wandering monsters everywhere, the change in the terrain is worrisome. What if the antidote fell into the lava or the river of blood? Or what if the stone slab with the puzzle is missing? Then what are we waiting for? Huang Dachui shouted. Let's hurry up and search. I also want to. Basic man smiled bitterly. Before his voice died away, the 4 members of the Golden Warhammer team were surrounded by a circle of strange shadows. But these monsters don't seem like they will cooperate with us. Basic Man mumbled as he summoned his scythes again. On the other hand, at Underworld Frontline, even if you squat where you are, the scenario won't change back to how it was before. Xiaoling looked at her boyfriend with a condescending gaze and said with sincerity, "Quick, get up and help us." When she said that, she raised both of her arms and used Moon Killer and Falling Star to mindlessly shoot at some of the monsters that were 10 meters away. Since both guns had a certain degree of auto-calibration, when shooting at the monsters, Xiaoling only needed to aim from the corner of her eyes and then fire at will. I know. When Xiao Tan answered, he had already stood up. The terror points were a bit high earlier. Let me take a break first. You've already taken 30 seconds, and you're still not done? Xiao Ling asked in an impatient tone. Are you 7 years old this year? So, this time is related to age. Hearing that, Xiao Tan's lips twitched as he replied. So, those above the age of 7 have to calm down within 30 seconds when they encounter something scary. Of course. Xiao Ling said matter-of-factly. Don't tell me that when you saw a question that you couldn't answer in an exam paper when you were young, you were in a state of panic until the class was over? Xiao Tan was speechless. I say, why are you guys discussing the 30-second rule at a time like this? Hua Jian chimed in. Focus on the monsters. Note, the 30-second rule refers to the principle of, in an exam, if you still can't figure out the answer within 30 seconds, you should skip the question. This is because if you can't figure out the answer within 30 seconds, you might not be able to figure it out even if you spend another 30 minutes thinking about it. Self-deception will only waste time. P.S. I made up this rule in 30 seconds, so please don't take it seriously. Okay, watch me, Xiao Tan said as he used a shotgun and sleeve bolt to suppress the monsters that were gathering around them. After a few seconds, he suddenly remembered something. He stopped and told his teammates, by the way, these monsters, I think I've seen them somewhere before, 10 minutes earlier, inside the strange castle of the city center. 3 silhouettes entered the main hall and walked all the way to Sam Montier's throne. Yo, we've brought him here. My king, please. TSK, check out. Upside Down and Upside Down reported to Sam Montier with a rap. All right, you can leave now. Sam Montier sat on the throne without moving. He did not even open his eyes. After the two received the order, they looked at each other, shrugged their shoulders, turned around, and left. After they left the palace, Feng Bujue said with a smile, Did you close your eyes because you couldn't look at your 2 subordinates? Feng Bujue. Sam Montier did not answer Brother Ju's question. He knew that if he continued on this topic, he would be mocked again, so he only said what he had prepared beforehand. Even at this stage, I have to say I am impressed that you can still maintain such a calm attitude. What? Do you still expect to see me show a look of fear? Feng Bujue asked. Humph. How boring. Sam Montier said as he opened his eyes. Now, the color of his eyes was different from when he was on Devil's Island. At the time, he had a pair of yellowish eyes, but now, his beast eyes were dark. You are an opponent that makes me feel helpless, Feng Bujue. Sam Montier opened his giant bat wings and stood up from the throne. He stomped down slowly. I'm not sure whether you're too calm or too crazy, but I'm sure I won't get the thrill of revenge from you. As he spoke, he walked to Brother Ju, because even though you're just a lowly creature, You've always looked down on everything with the attitude of superior. Looking down on me. The word me was accompanied by a roar, and the air that came out of Sam Montier's mouth blew Brother Jew's hair up. The next second, Fong Bujua glared at him with his dead fish eyes and replied, "Based on the current situation, there are at least 2 reasons why I am acting all high and mighty before you. 1, I am much better than you in terms of oral cleanliness. 2, I know better than to talk to other people when I have bad breath." Hearing that, Sam Montier took 2 steps back awkwardly. Humph. You humans use that meaningless social etiquette as the basis for your arrogance? Social etiquette aside, this is mainly a personal hygiene issue, isn't it? Fong Bujue's retort came quickly, and it was logical. Furthermore, I have nothing to be arrogant about. You should be ashamed. If you insist that I'm arrogant, I'll hug your neck and talk to you with feces in my mouth. I wonder how you'll feel. When that was said, Sam Montier subconsciously took another step back. Enough. Don't talk nonsense with me anymore. He soon realized that the topic had been led astray by Brother Jew, so he decided to get to the point. Today, I'll make you pay for what you've done in the past. Then, the demonic energy around Sam Montier pulsed, and a wave of murderous intent rolled out like a tsunami. Huh? You'll make me pay? Fong Bujue stood where he was, and he did not even take out his sorcery weapon. You humph! Sam Montier sneered. Looks like you're just SOSO. He paused for half a second. Do you think you can escape unscathed like you did on Devil's Island? Oh, you're talking about that. Fong Bujue put his hands in his pockets and replied in a relaxed tone. You mean the fight where you pretended to attack me, but you were actually waiting for an opportunity to ambush the Punisher? Sam Montier's expression changed slightly. How would I know? Fong Bujue continued. Ha! I know far more than that. He raised his hand and touched his chin. I also know that you're 3 times stronger than you were then, right? Sam Montier did not reply, but his shock was reflected in the waves of his mana. I admit, when we first met, I did underestimate you a little. Fong Bujue was still talking. But after that encounter on Devil's Island, I changed my mind. Then after I sorted out the information about you, I realized that your shrewdness and potential are not to be underestimated. Humph bluff. At this time, Sam Montier calmed down and said tentatively, It's your usual trick. What? You think I'm bluffing? Fong Bujue laughed. Ha. Then I'll show you something. He opened his hands and said with his usual annoying face, Where should I start? Oh, right. Let's start with the strange religion that you, Soul's Nature, and Taliom set up. Chapter 9:34. When Fong Bujue said the 2 names, Sam Montier could not hide the shock on his face. And this was completely within Brother Jew's expectations. In this main universe, I'm afraid no one would have thought that the leader of the 9 heads of the dead spirits under the command of King of Abyss, the curse god officer beside the leader of the demons, and you, the former minister of time, are in cahoots. Fong Bujue continued. To be honest, even for me, when Billy told me about the Phantom Demon Church, it took me at least 10 seconds to come to a conclusion. That puppet, Sam Montier said in a low voice. How did he know all this? Ha! That puppet knows far more than that. Fong Bujue laughed. You didn't answer my question, Sam Montier said again. Because there is no need for you to know the answer to that question, Fong Bujue said. Humph! What a joke. Sam Montier scoffed. Is it up to you to decide whether or not I need to know this information? It's not that I have to decide, but Fong Bujue replied calmly. I can decide. What a bunch of nonsense. Sam Montier yelled. It's normal that you don't understand. Brother Jew shrugged. You only need to play your role well. It is hard to explain the communication between us high-ranking individuals. Huh? Sam Montier chuckled darkly. You and that puppet are high-level beings? Huh. Yes, at least 2 or 3 levels higher than you. But Fong Bujue did not smile. He used a very calm tone to say, Billy's understanding of prophecy has already decided that he will eventually become an existence that will surpass you and most of the uniqueness data. And he will play a key role in the twilight of the gods. Every word Brother Jew said, and the way he said it made Sam Montier feel an invisible pressure, because the truth was a form of power. As for me, Brother Jew patted his chest. My data is one dimension higher than yours, but that's not the point. The point is that my understanding of this world is close to the level of zero. As long as there is enough information and execution, I can even break his prophecy program and guide the direction of the future. I do not understand what you are talking about. Sam Montier really did not understand because much of the content had been blocked by the system. Furthermore, even if it was not blocked, the words were beyond his comprehension. See, that's why I said you don't need to know. Feng Bujue tilted his head and said, "Let's continue the topic we were talking about." He paused for 2 seconds and continued. "Actually, I've already experienced the power of your illusion fiend church more than once. If I'm not mistaken, the Ford Hunter's Island that you sent to kill me, his servant, Ivan, is a member of your church, right?" He shook his head with a smile. "Also, I've seen 2 magic circles with the same source of power in the House of Usher, Haunted House of Mountain Pond, and outside Sakura Town, the main character of the attack. They must be the work of Taliom." He took his time to list. "Of course, the one that left the deepest impression on me was a certain evil spirit inside the Cedar County Public Hospital, the Cursed Hospital. This person, who should have been taken care of by me with a single slash, unleashed an undead power that was far beyond what he should have been capable of at the last moment of his life. It almost caused me to fall. To put it simply, your sect is like a huge shadow that hides in the dark. From time to time, it would appear in my experience and annoy me. This makes me very unhappy, and I have been putting this shadow somewhere in the Hall of Thought, patiently waiting for the moment to reveal it. Until one day, I got my hands on something." At this point, Brother Jew paused on purpose like he was giving the man time to react. The demonic spiritual pivot. "Humph! You shameless be **starred, Sam Montier grumbled. "How dare you bring that up?" Obviously, Sam Montier had heard about how Brother Jew had stolen the item from Spirit Snatcher and never returned it. Using my ability to observe data, I found some clues from that item. Feng Bujue ignored Sam Montier's comment and continued. "From then on, I knew that Spirit Snatcher was secretly controlling an organization and relying on this organization to gather the power of faith for himself." He put his hands in his pockets and started to pace slowly. "Unfortunately, in the days that followed, I did not have much interaction with your organization, so much so that I could not even find out its name." He licked his lips. "Thankfully, during my last conversation with Billy, this puzzle that had been bothering me for so long was finally solved. I only found out from him that Spirit Snatcher is not the only god behind the organization. You and Taliom are involved as well." By then, Sam Montier had calmed down. He looked at Brother Jew with a complicated gaze. A powerful necromancer, second only to the king of the Nether Abyss, a gifted descendant of the Satyrs, an accursed demon with unfathomable power. Feng Bujue was still talking. "I don't know how you got together, and I don't know what your ultimate goal is, but I have to admit that you are very powerful." He paused for half a second before continuing. "The 3 of you are hiding in 3 powerful forces under the wings of 3 gods. At the same time, all of you are using the Phantom Fiend Church to obtain the power of faith that belongs to you. The undead power of Soul Snatcher, Taliom's curses, and the knowledge and power that your Phantom Fiend Church gives birth to is enough for your believers to commit crimes everywhere. The curses, legends, and tragedies that are born from this will in turn become the source of your energy." "Humph! Looks like you have indeed found out something." Sam Montier's attitude turned cold. The savagery around him disappeared, and in its place was a profound presence. "But that is not everything. Yes, that is why I came here and told you all this." Feng Bujue continued. "I was hoping that you would tell me the information that Billy was unable to. If someone else stood before me, I would ask them whether they were crazy or dumb," Sam Montier replied. "But now, I wish to ask for your advice." He raised his arm and pointed at Brother Jew. "Feng Bujue, what makes you think I will not kill you and will even tell you all this information?" It's very simple. Fong Bujua used a lazy expression to reply. Because I'm stronger than you. Are you sure? Sam Montier's expression was serious. He did not scoff at Brother Ju's reason, but he did not doubt it either. Instead, he probed carefully. Whether I am sure or not, what is going to happen next is still the same. Fong Bujua said, if Billy is here, he will tell you that your choice has already been decided. Then, he raised his arm and made a pleased gesture. So, come on, unleash all your power and fight me. Then, in front of me, you can bow your head and submit. Chapter 9:35. Sam Montier understood that since Fong Bujua had said something like unleash all your power, then there was no need for him to hide his true power anymore. Therefore, before he finished, the mana rose again. Instantly, a materialized darkness spread out from Sam Montier and blocked Brother Ju's sight. At that moment, the whole city was plunged into darkness. You are weaker than I expected. Fong Bujua stood in the darkness and looked at Sam Montier. He said in a disappointed tone, looks like I don't need to transform to deal with you. As he spoke, he put Chuck Norris's razor back into his inventory. Humph, you can even see through the darkness? Sam Montier's voice soon echoed. Looks like you are indeed a very powerful presence. I told you, I am much more powerful than you. Fong Bujua replied calmly. At the same time, the black light in his eyes kept moving. So powerful that I don't even want to fight you myself. Oh, Sam Montier seemed to have heard something from the man's words. Are you going to summon something to fight me? As a world-class scenario boss, Sam Montier had met many players, or rather, visitors from another world, so he naturally knew that these people had the ability to summon. You're right. Fong Bujua replied instantly and took out Blood Corpse God's Magatama to activate the item's effect. In the darkness, a red light appeared. The strange glow from the Magatama broke through the heavy shadows and created a ball of light with a diameter of 3 meters. It was not until the Blood Corpse God fully appeared that the surroundings returned to darkness. Let me see, what is it this time? After the Blood Corpse God appeared, he did not show any discomfort with the darkness. Oh, it looks like a satyr. He also accurately located Sam Montier in the dark. He stared at the latter and said, I've seen some before, but this one seems to be particularly delicious. What are you? On the other side, Sam Montier's expression turned to one of fear when he saw the Blood Corpse God. How can someone like you listen to that kid's orders? Blood Corpse God continued the conversation and pointed at Brother Ju. He smirked coldly. Don't misunderstand. He and I are just using each other. He paused and looked at Sam Montier. And you and I are the food and the food. While saying this, the Blood Corpse God had already quietly activated his fear projection ability, and it was directly at 80% of its power. In less than 2 seconds, Sam Montier let out a muffled groan and stumbled before falling to one knee. At the same time, the darkness in the city retreated. But Nuka City had lost the cover of the fog and returned to its original state. Sam Montier did not expect Fong Bujua summoned to be a demon king that was no weaker than the 4 pillars of divinity. In that case, it looked like Fong Bujua's power level was immeasurable. Then, I shall not hold back. The Blood Corpse God saw that Sam Montier was too weak to resist, so he prepared to eat. Wait, but to his surprise, Fong Bujua stopped him. The Blood Corpse God looked confused. What do you want? Brother Ju did not answer him, but turned to Sam Montier. Sam Montier, I can spare your life. As soon as he said that, the Blood Corpse God interrupted. Hey, it's already in my mouth. He looked like a hungry ghost sitting at the dining table. Even the food was in front of him, but it was about to be taken away. But Fong Bujua ignored him. He glared at him and continued to speak to Sam Montier. I will provide you with a choice, just as the creator of this world wishes. He raised his head to read. Choice is the core concept of this second thriller paradise. Even though it does not look as perfect as its predecessor, it makes it more acceptable. So, even though I know the result, and I know the result is predestined, I will still give you the right to choose. Then, Can you give me a choice as well? Like, do you want to eat? Or do you want to eat? Or do you want to eat? The blood corpse god chimed in. Brother Jew ignored him again and turned to Samontir. Then, do you choose to be eaten here, or I understand now? Before Brother Jew finished, Samontir said, no matter what you want to know, I will tell you everything. Obviously, Brother Jew and the blood corpse god's act of good cop and bad cop had placed a lot of pressure on the other party. However, after Samontir made his choice, Fong Bujua said coldly, no, that is not enough. When Samontir heard that, his heart shivered. Before I summoned the blood corpse god, I gave you a chance, but, as I expected, we did not come to a consensus. Fong Bujua sighed. Sigh. Only when despair descends on you will you make a compromise. That is the problem with you, or rather, someone at your level. Then, what do you want me to do now? At this point, Samontir's focus was no longer on how to choose, but how to obey. Ha! The thing that I want you to do is not something that can be explained in a few words, Fong Bujua said as he walked past Samontir with his hands in his pockets. A few seconds later, he sat down on the throne that originally belonged to Samontir. He crossed his legs and said, listen to me one by one. 10 minutes after the scenario started, somewhere in the western part of the city. Phew, this is it, right? Looking at a giant rock with a smiling face, Alkaline Man stopped moving and said between breaths, if this is not the place. At that moment, Huang Dachui's face looked like he could turn into a zombie at any moment. I believe they are toying with us. Yes, with our current physical condition, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the next location, Wonder Fighter added. Damn it, it feels like we've been toyed with by that man, Mystic King said angrily. From the severity of the illness, the virus will take less than 3 hours to break out. No, only Alkaline Man maintained his calm. At least he is not lying about the time. He staggered at the front and continued without turning back. Theoretically speaking, the virus will take 3 hours to break out. But this time is most likely based on the theoretical data obtained from the lab. In other words, the patient remains relatively still at normal temperature. He licked his dry lips. And the 4 of us have been exercising since we were infected. Understood, Mr. King said. The temperature, body temperature, and metabolic rate have increased the speed of the outbreak. That's right. Alkaline Man nodded. That is why, even though the 4 of us were infected at the same time, there's a certain degree of difference in our physical condition. As the 4 of them conversed, they had already walked to the side of the giant rock. No matter what, let's take a look at this first. Alkaline Man looked closer and saw a line of words under the smiley face. The antidote is hidden under the rock. Fighter. Alkaline Man looked at the words and immediately turned to Wonder Fighter. Is it okay? At this time, the 3 teammates behind him also saw the line of words clearly. Piece of cake. For Wonder Fighter, even with the disease status, pushing a rock of this size was not difficult at all. Then, he took 2 steps forward and pressed his arms against the giant rock. After brewing for 2 seconds, he took a deep breath and then let out a deep roar as he bent his knees and exerted his strength. Things developed unexpectedly smoothly. The rock was much lighter than Wonder Fighter had imagined. It fell with just a push. With a loud bang, the rock fell to the ground. There was indeed a small hole in the ground below, and a metal box was embedded in the hole. Let me do it. Alkaline Man greeted his teammates, then walked forward and cautiously approached the box. As a result, nothing unusual happened when he pushed the rock or took out the box. It seemed that if there was a trap, it must be inside the box. The worst-case scenario is not only is there no antidote, but there's also some kind of explosive hidden inside. Alkaline Man took out the box and said to his teammates, "You guys should stay away. After I open it, there's no need." Huang Dachui interrupted at this time. "If there is no antidote, then we're doomed. The only difference is that we will be killed by the explosion or by the poison." Alkaline Man thought for a few seconds after hearing this. He had to agree. It made sense. Okay, then I'll open it. So, he picked up the box with the mentality of a dead horse. The next second, under the burning gaze of the 4 members of the Golden War Hammer team, the box was opened. Alkaline Man had just opened a gap when a burst of white light erupted from a box. At that moment, the four of them thought in unison, "It's over, it's really an explosive trap." Of course, they misunderstood. The metal box that Fong Bujue placed inside did not contain any antidote, but it also did not contain any explosives. Inside the box was a magic circle used for teleportation. When the white light dissipated, Huang Dachui, Basic Man, Odd Warrior, and Mystic Spirit Monarch were already in a spacious hall. Then, a tall creature with a pair of wings on its back and a strong demonic aura entered their line of sight. "Is this them?" Sam Montier stood in front of a giant magic circle with a radius of 5 meters, looking down at the four players before him with a condescending gaze. "Ah, that's right." Fong Bujue's voice then rang out. The four members of the Golden Warhammer team heard the voice and knew who it was. They all turned their heads and looked toward the source of the voice. They saw the man with the blurry face. When the privacy function was activated, the player's face and voice would be blurred, but they would still retain a certain level of uniqueness so that the opponent would not be able to recognize them. As for the outfit, it would look like a beginner's outfit to the opponent, was sitting on a throne. The man held his chin with one hand and crossed one leg over the other. In his other hand, there was a wine glass filled with red liquid. You guys are later than I expected." Fong Bujue swirled the wine glass and looked at the four dumbfounded people. He said in a lazy tone, "You must have been delayed by the monster." When he said this, he raised his glass and drank a mouthful of the liquid in the glass. Then he said, "It's so King disgusting." He shook his head and said, "Sorry, I wanted to taste this thing in front of everyone and pretend to be a beep. But it's so disgusting that I can't give a positive review. This is my collection of wizard's blood." Sam Montier turned around and grumbled, "If you don't like it, just leave it there." Fong Bujue ignored him and continued to tell the members of the Golden Warhammer team. "As you can see, this Sam Montier, who looks scary, tastes very different from us, is stingy, and is not as handsome as I am." He paused for half a second before adding, "AKA the scenario boss. Now, he's in cahoots with me." As Brother Jew spoke, he put down the wine glass and stood up from the throne. "So, your lives end here." He took a step forward and shrugged. "But I have promised you that I will give you the antidote. A deal is a deal." Then he really did take out the antidote from his inventory and personally handed it to the shocked Huang Dachui. Throughout this process, Fong Bujue maintained an unguarded state, and this calmness caused the four members of the enemy team to shiver. After all, in this situation, the four members of the Golden Warhammer team could launch a close-range ambush on Fong Bujue after consuming the antidote, or even the moment they obtained the antidote. Once the ambush was successful, they would have killed a super strong enemy team member and successfully removed their own debuff. Then, they could ignore the scenario boss and escape, continuing the match with their advantage in numbers. Moreover, even Huang Dachui could think of the above hypothesis. It could be said that everyone present was well aware of this. However, Fong Bujue continued to act as if nothing had happened. He continued to do his own thing. This kind of relaxed attitude made the four people before him even more suspicious, and they did not dare to act rashly. Chapter 9:36. Facing Brother Jew's calm reaction, many possibilities popped up in Alkaline Man's mind, but none of them were logical. This man? What is he up to? Alkaline Man asked himself this question repeatedly, but the most logical answer he could come up with was, did he overlook the possibility of us retaliating? Or does he think that he can block the surprise attack of four people in such an environment and distance by himself? On the other side, Fong Bujue still looked relaxed. He turned to Huang Dachui and asked, "What are you waiting for? Do you want it or not?" "TSK. Who's afraid of you?" Huang Dachui replied with a strange answer due to his lack of confidence. Then, he accepted the antidote from the man. Right then, Alkaline Man hurried forward and told Huang Dachui, "Show us the item description." 1 second later, Huang Dachui nodded and did as he was told. Therefore, The following data soon appeared before the 4 members of the Golden Warhammer team. Item name: Antidote X. 4 Item type: Consumable quality: Normal function: 39. 48% chance of nullifying the effect of virus Z and making the user immune to it. Can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. Can be injected or consumed. Has no effect on monsters or fully zombified players. When Feng Bujue entered this scenario last time, this kind of antidote was categorized by the system as plot-related, but now the item had been categorized as consumable. This meant that it had nothing to do with the main plot of this scenario anymore. Of course, the effect of the antidote was still the same. There was only a 40% chance of it working. Hey, this is different from what we agreed on. The Mystic King was furious when he saw the item description. He turned to question Brother Ju. How come there's only a 40% chance of success? You call this an antidote? Huh. Ha ha. Feng Bujue guffawed. First of all, this is called an antidote. As long as it can remove the effects of the virus, it's called an antidote. As for the probability, let's not talk about 39. 48%, even if it was 1%, wouldn't you still have to take it? He paused for a moment. Secondly, what do you mean by different from what we agreed on? What'd I tell you? He turned around, spread out his hands, and put on a smug look. Did I tell you that this antidote's efficiency is 100%? No, right? In addition, when I was negotiating with you, you didn't reach any agreement with me, did you? I was the only one who explained the situation, and then you all surrounded me. Strictly speaking. So what if I don't give you the serum? Everything he said was true and reasonable. Even if he took 10,000 steps back, even if he had been deceiving the other party from the very beginning, it would still be understandable. Because this was a competition. In the competition, other than the agreement recognized by the system, all negotiations between the two parties could not be trusted. If they didn't even know that all was fair in war, they could only admit defeat. Looks like we have to thank you. Basic guy snorted. So you keep your word and are open and honest? Well said, well said. Feng Bujue used a prideful tone and clasped his fist. You flatter me. When Brother Ju said those words, Basic Guy gave his teammates a look and said something in a low voice. Brother Ju saw all of this. Even though he didn't show it on the surface, he knew very well that the other party was planning a surprise attack. However, compared to the impending danger, Feng Bujue seemed to be more concerned about something. There are only 3 minutes left. At that moment, Feng Bujue used a whispering tone. He turned around slightly to look at a place where no one was around and said with a smile. In the whole scenario, only one person heard what he said, and that was Ruo Yu, who was watching the battle. If you really want to, you can kill all 4 of them in 30 seconds. Ruo Yu, who had been watching from the side, naturally understood what Brother Ju meant. You dragged it out for so long because you wanted to find Sam Montier and prepare for the finals. Just as the two of them were talking, Basic Guy had already finished his plan. In the blink of an eye, the 4 members of the Golden Warhammer team quickly distributed the antidote and drank their portion in one gulp. Then they spread out and attacked Brother Ju. They completely ignored the presence of Sam Montier and placed all their focus on Feng Bujue. Without a doubt, this ambush was going to be a success. Bang! The first to go off was Huang Dachui's sniper rifle. Even though he was the weakest member of the Golden Warhammer team, he had a perfect grade weapon and special ammo. Furthermore, no matter how good Huang Dachui was, his marksmanship mastery was already level A. At this distance, with this mastery, this equipment, and this ammo, as long as he hit, he would be able to deal heavy damage. However, the second after the gunshot, something unbelievable happened. Feng Bujue was still standing where he was, not moving at all. However, he had already raised one hand. Between the index and middle fingers of that hand, there was a long and narrow sniper bullet. You've got to be kidding me. Wonder Fighter, who was charging at Brother Ju, was so shocked that he froze. Due to his excellent dynamic vision, he could vaguely see what had just happened. He actually caught Sledgehammer's golden bullet with 2 fingers. Basic Guy also saw Brother Ju catch the bullet, but his reaction was different from Wonder Fighter's. That's impossible. At this moment, he, who had always been calm, raised his scythe like a madman and charged forward. Perhaps only Basic Guy himself knew that in that short moment, his pride and confidence as a professional gamer had been severely damaged. The unbelievable fact in front of him that he had no choice but to believe caused him to fall into extreme shock and anger. His heart was on the verge of collapse, but his body followed its instincts to fight. If you have the guts, take this as well. Basic Guy charged in front of Brother Jew, shouted, and used his strongest close-range killer move, Soul Trap. In an instant, a purplish-black aura of death burst out from the scythe, and two cold lights intertwined as they slashed at Brother Jew's neck. But he never expected that. Sure, Feng Bujue smiled, raised his hands in front of his chest, and used telepathic finger again. This time, he used both hands to catch the two scythes that were falling down. Not only was his bladed strike blocked by the opponent's bladed strike, with his bare hands, his own momentum was also stopped. It was difficult for him to move forward. Who are you? Basic Guy's eyes widened. His shock had broken through the limit, and there was only fear left in his heart. Humph! Feng Bujue responded to this question with a cold smile. The next second, he let go of his fingers and followed up with a backflip, and used Tempest Kick, Dragon Slash. Basic Guy's life points were not high to begin with, and he had taken some damage from the previous battle with the monsters. Now that he was hit at such close range, it was naturally difficult for him to block, and he died. This is ridiculous, now that things have come to this. We can only give it our all. Seeing that their actual captain was killed by the opponent in one hit, Wonder Fighter and Mystic King were shocked and angry, and their first reaction was surprisingly the same: continue the attack. The cooperation between the two was quite good, and their fighting skills were not bad. In the current situation, the two of them chose to change their positions immediately and attacked Brother Jew, who had just landed on the ground. But to their surprise, Feng Bujue seemed to have predicted their movements. He made his move earlier than they were supposed to. While he was flying in the air, a golden light appeared in his hand, and Death Poker's Soul Chaser effect was activated. The 100 light plates split into two and flew towards the Mystic Spirit King and Wonder Fighter respectively, drawing all kinds of strange and precise arcs in the air. The two of them wanted to attack Brother Jew, but they were caught off guard. In less than 5 seconds, their throats were slit by the dazzling light. There's still 1 minute left. When Feng Bujue landed on the ground, the only opponent left in front of him was Huang Dachui. At that moment, Huang Dachui was so scared that he was rooted to the spot, unable to move. Seeing the 3 powerful teammates that he had spent a lot of money to hire being killed in the blink of an eye, Huang Dachui's mind went blank, and he started to doubt the things that he had always believed in. Looking at your expression, Feng Bujue walked closer to his opponent. Are you thinking, am I not as strong as you think? After saying that, he walked up to Huang Dachui and revealed an evil smile. If you're really asking yourself that question, then I can tell you clearly. As he said that, the black flame from Devil's Flame Purgatory Scorch hit Huang Dachui directly. At the same second, Feng Bujue finished the rest of his sentence. You're so weak. Chapter 9:37. Current quest completed. All main quests have been completed. You have completed the scenario. Automatic teleportation in 180 seconds. As the last member of Golden Warhammer dissolved into white light, the system announcement rang in the ears of the 4 members of Underworld Frontline. Look, it's been exactly 2 hours. Feng Bujue turned around and smiled at the empty space. Sam Montier, who stood to the side, saw this and asked, "Who are you talking to?" Nothing, just talking to myself." Feng Bujue answered casually and changed the topic. "All right, it's time for me to leave. The next time we meet, I hope you've dealt with your 2 old friends from Phantom Church. Before Ragnarok, I'll try to meet one of you again." "I can't promise," Sam Montier replied darkly, their attitude toward this matter. "It's fine," Feng Bujue said. "I believe, as long as their intelligence and ambition are on par with yours, they have no reason to reject my suggestion. Of course, if there's a need, I'll show them what I can do. Okay then. Sam Montier's expression turned complicated. Until next time, until we meet again, Fong Bujue replied, morphed into white light, and teleported away. The scenario has been completed. Calculating reward. Obtain game coins, 60,000. Obtain equipment. None completed missions. 1/1 completed special and hidden missions. 0. Unlocked world building. None obtained skill points. 782 additional game coins from skill points. 78200 scenario cleared reward. Preliminary round points +3 calculation complete. Please continue. When he returned to the login lobby, a short checklist appeared on the touch screen. Since Fong Bujue's level had been maxed out, the EXP reward was naturally gone. In terms of items, Brother Ju did not get any. Other than that, the competition mode only retained the force disconnection when the terror points were too high mechanism, but did not activate the terror points reward system, so the related items had been removed. Okay, we've won the first battle. Brother Ju looked at the screen and said in a relaxed tone. Then, he used the social tab to confirm that Xiao Tan and the rest had left the scenario. After waiting for about a minute, Brother Ju sent a request to enter the conference room. Soon, Xiao Tan clicked confirm. Hi, did you guys have fun? The moment he stepped into the meeting room, Fong Bujue put on a smug expression and told his teammates in a smug tone. We spent more than an hour looking for equipment and half an hour clearing monsters. Spirity summed up what they had done in the first match with a single sentence. But overall, we are still quite happy. After all, we won, Hua Qian said. That's right. Hunting monsters for equipment is much easier than fighting people, Xiao Tan replied with a shrug. Fong Bujue smiled at his teammates before his eyes fell on Ruoyu. Are you satisfied? Ha! Ruoyu uttered these two syllables expressionlessly. Seeing her expression, Brother Ju's smile deepened, but he knew when to stop, so he did not say anything more. Instead, he said, Then, shall we take a short break to prepare for the second round? Sigh. Hearing that, Ruoyu sighed. I think you should just watch the second match. I have to admit, having you fight is a waste of resources. It's good that you understand. Fong Bujue lay down on the sofa and used his hands as a pillow. I told you we are very strong. Other than a few extremely strong teams, most teams won't be able to pose much of a threat to us. Currently, the four of you are not at max level yet, so there is still room for improvement. Furthermore, the preliminaries are based on points. Even if you lose 1 or 2 matches, you won't be eliminated immediately. So, before the semifinals, I think it's better for me to watch. Hearing Brother Ju's comment, Xiaoling could not help but raise her eyebrows and tease him. Ah, you look like you are invincible. He looks like he's saying, this level of battle is too boring for me to fight. Hua Jian added, even though I sound arrogant. Fong Bujue looked at his teammates and shrugged. But it's the truth, isn't it? Right, Brother Ju. Xiaodan seemed to have remembered something. He looked at Brother Ju and said, Do you remember the scenario where we first met Brother Long? The monsters in the scenario, they're all Sam Montier's phantom demons. Fong Bujue knew what he was going to say, so he said, I was just about to tell you guys what I did in the scenario earlier. Listen to me. At the same time, inside a luxurious office at the Dream Company's headquarters, a demon by the name of Woody was sitting in the executive chair behind the desk. He held a glass of iced alpaca milk and sipped it gently. We did win. Vincent's voice came from the side of the room. Even though he wasn't in the room a second ago, Woody wasn't surprised by his appearance. Ha ha ha, isn't that a matter of course? Woody was still smiling wretchedly. Now that Fong Bujue has dragged the Phantom Demon Church into the game, Vincent said as he walked toward the desk. This will probably affect the development of Ragnarok, right? The ending of Ragnarok is destined. Be it him or anyone else, nothing can change it, Woody replied with a smile. Of course, Fong Bujue knows that. So, his plan isn't focused on the process or ending of Ragnarok, but after the ending. Skipping the unchangeable fact and focusing on the third phase, Vincent asked in a low voice. Humph, if it were you or me, we'd do the same. Woody's face darkened. At this point, Vincent walked to the front of a sofa and sat opposite Woody. It seems that in terms of intelligence, he has gained your approval. Don't joke around. He's a masterpiece made with that person's genes. In terms of intelligence, we don't have to worry about it from the beginning, Woody replied with a smile. I think he's lagging behind in other aspects. Ha! So, you and Simon put on that show? Vincent laughed as well. He. I really can't hide anything from you. Woody laughed even more wickedly as he happily took a sip of the cloudy white liquid in his hand. Well said, but your plan is killing two birds with one stone, Vincent said. You and Simon rehearsed your lines in advance and chose to perform in a script where time and space intersects. Everyone knows that in that kind of environment, there will be more or less some spies from various forces lurking. So, after this good show of killing one to warn the others, the news that even Woody's violation of the rules has been wiped out by the referee will soon spread. He. In this way, Woody continued Vincent's words and continued. Simon's work will progress more easily, and I will get a broken and rebuilt Fong Bujua, the so-called win-win situation. Vincent smiled. No wonder Simon agreed to act with you. His smile suddenly turned cold. But in your conversation, you inexplicably dragged me into it. What kind of mentality is that? Woody laughed a few times, drank another mouthful of alpaca milk, and said again, it's very simple to increase the credibility. Understood. Vincent quickly returned to his breezy demeanor. I'll take this as a compliment from you. After saying this, he adjusted his sitting posture and asked, well, since we have already talked about that person, then I'll ask, when are you going to tell him the origin of Fong Bujua? Of course. Woody tilted his head. When I think it's time to tell him, when he said this sentence, his tone and expression were extremely annoying, and his answer was equivalent to not answering at all. Ha. Vincent seemed to have heard a very funny joke and immediately laughed out loud. Okay, then I might as well guess. He paused for half a second. When his real ability awakens. Woody smiled, but did not say anything. Vincent looked at him and also smiled, but did not say anything. These two wily old foxes, who were overflowing with intelligence, would often laugh and gloss over a question that they had a tacit understanding of. This was because they were too smart. Therefore, they needed to be muddle-headed from time to time. All right, you don't have to worry about this matter. After laughing for a while, Woody spoke again. He's the person I'm betting on, so I'll protect him. I just feel that you're meddling too much, so I wanted to give you a piece of advice. Vincent adjusted his expression and said solemnly, with Fong Bujua's intelligence and the help of the Dun Jia Heavenly Book, it won't take long for him to realize that his psionic power is just a facade. Getting Simon to help him break through that barrier is indeed a shortcut, but is it really good for him? His eyes changed slightly. If he were to obtain a powerful power that he cannot control in a short period of time, maybe you will lead yourself to destruction. Woody interrupted Vincent and finished the last part of the sentence that Vincent was about to say. At this moment, a white light flashed on Woody's spectacles. I know all of this, but he suddenly laughed again. The illogical high risk and high reward is where the charm of gambling lies. Chapter 938. September, a strange season. She was like a young lady who was about to change into autumn clothes. The warmth of summer was the last strand of gauze around her waist, and the pressure of the new semester and the haze of the quarterly report were like a pair of safety pants under the gauze. All right, let's get back to the main topic. This September of 2055 belonged to Thriller Paradise. After the preliminaries of the tournament for the Best S2 began, the Dream Company launched a corresponding promotional campaign to hype up this competition. In just a few days, all kinds of news related to this matter were spread all over the media. Even many mainstream media that were dismissive of the gaming industry had reported on this matter. It could be said that the attention of society was unparalleled at this time. Within the gaming circle, this competition had become the most eye-catching battle in recent years. The 5 months since the start of the server, the format of the team battle, and the point-based ranking it was not hard to see that this preliminaries had the intention of testing the quality of the gaming studios. If it was said that the final ranking of S1 was unconvincing due to too many unpredictable factors in the finals, then S2, at least in the preliminaries, there was no excuse for any of the teams to find. In fact, most gaming studios had reached a consensus. The result of the preliminaries of S2 might decide the actual ranking of the gaming studios in the eyes of the general public. Therefore, for those famous gaming studios, starting from midnight on the 5th of September, a battle that would last for 50 days had already begun. Every day, they would announce their points on their official website, and that was an important cornerstone to their victory. For the professional players who were regarded as stars, this was also a long and drawn-out trial. The result of each round, the process of each team battle, and even the life points lost in each duel, all of that could affect a team's ranking in the preliminaries. From a casual team's point of view, 36 matches were just 36 wins and losses. Theoretically speaking, 108 points was the best result. But from a perspective of a strong professional team, 108 points was just a pass. A complete victory was a must. As a team that wanted to fight for the championship, if they couldn't even obtain a complete victory in the preliminaries, then what confidence did they have to win all the way to the end in the knockout stage where there were so many strong players like the Clouds? And on top of that, they also had to do their best to ensure that every match was won with the least cost and the most efficient method. Only a team that did this to the extreme would be able to reach the top of the rankings in the preliminaries. To put it simply, for teams that wanted to be ranked in the preliminaries in the 36 matches, they had to treat every match seriously and not make any mistakes. They would not fight with the attitude of as long as they win in the end like casual players. They were destined to put in more effort than normal players because only then could they be called a professional. Playing a game with a salary was not as easy as it sounded. In all fairness, this was more stressful than doing something else with a salary. Even though times were changing, the stereotypical prejudice in people's hearts was still there. No one would say that a football player was playing football with a salary, and no one would say that a swimmer was playing water with a salary. But in the industry of professional gamers, there were always people who looked down on them. Actually, there was not much difference between a professional gamer and a professional athlete. Both required talent, hard work, and a little bit of luck. They both had experience, skill, the ability to withstand pressure, and professionalism. The biggest difference between them was that one party used physical equipment or venues as a competition tool, while the other party used virtual electronic programs as a competition medium. Just because the latter medium was more of an entertainment medium than a physical or mental training medium, it was obviously unfair to view the players differently. This time, when the Dream Company promoted tournament for the best S2 to the general public, they paid attention to this point. One of their advertising slogans was, "I don't understand how people can support themselves by playing games. Let's see what's so special about them." Once such slogans were released, even those who knew nothing about the gaming industry, or those who had not come into contact with Thriller Paradise were interested in this tournament for the best, much less those who were familiar with gaming. And all of this was the foundation that the Dream Company had set up for the live stream of the second half of the preliminaries. At the end of September, when this kind of hunger marketing had piqued the public's curiosity, the Dream Company released an announcement. 3 days later, we will hold an open bidding for the live stream of the second half of the preliminaries. This move not only allowed them to recoup all the marketing costs, it also netted them a huge profit. Of course, that was all in the future. At least before September 20th, no one knew that the second half of the preliminaries would be live streamed. Currently, most of the players' attention was still focused on how to win their own matches. Almost no one noticed that when the 50-day preliminaries began, the prologue of the Twilight of the Gods had been quietly unveiled. The main universe, at the border of the chaotic scorched earth. At the edge of the void, a huge door stood quietly, the door to nothingness. Years ago, the war between gods and demons was earth-shattering. In the end, the supervising god used all his power and used a life form with the characteristics of both gods and demons as the seal hub to seal the fighting demon into the door. After countless years, the ancient guardian demon relied on absorbing the battle demon chi that seeped out from the door and successfully escaped from the seal. His whereabouts were unknown. Thankfully, the supervising god seal was indestructible. Even without the wedge, it still lasted for a long time. However, that kind of days would come to an end today. Crack, crack, crack. After a muffled shattering sound, the pitch-black door shattered into pieces. In an instant, an unbelievably dense wave of demonic chi swept out from the door. Then, heavy footsteps came from the door. Bang, bang, bang. A huge shadow walked out of the door at a leisurely pace. With every step it took, the entire ground would tremble. However, just as it walked to the door and was only one step away from stepping out, it stopped. Have I been in nothingness for too long? Or did something happen to this universe? It muttered to itself. As it spoke, it raised a hand, front claw, and stretched it out of the door. As a result, in less than 2 seconds, its hand exploded from the inside. The dark demonic blood flowed down, emitting a mellow, strong, and distant smell like old wine. This was the physical sign of the ultimate demon. From a data point of view, every drop of blood on its body and every breath it exhaled were all highly condensed energy, compared to those ordinary creatures that emitted a foul stench from their bodies and bodies. It was simply a world of difference. Is this really the universe that I used to be in? Why is the pressure so small? The fighting demon retracted its hand. Many black, fibrous substances repaired its broken limbs at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seems that I need some time to adapt to this new environment. As it spoke, it had already secretly channeled its demonic energy and started to modify its body. Wrapped in demonic energy, its body began to shrink rapidly and gradually turn into a human form. Finally, after about 3 minutes, it became... At this time, the fighting demon had turned into a naked human man. He was about 9 meters tall, with a well-proportioned body and a gloomy face. He had snow-white skin and a head of naturally curly black hair. Looking at his exposed body, there was nothing different about him compared to a normal person. Phew! After successfully transforming, War Demon took a deep breath. Then he stepped out of the door that had trapped him for more than billions of years. In nothingness, one's perception of time would become infinitely long, and officially stepped into the main universe of Thriller Paradise. Chapter 9:39. Hey, Brother Jew, there's big news today. On the night of September 20th, when Feng Bujua logged into the game, he immediately received a communication request from Wang Tanji. As soon as the communication was established, Xiao Tan replied excitedly. I know. From the 23rd onward, all the remaining matches and Gathering of the Heroes will be broadcasted live. Only viewers with neural connection devices can watch the live stream. The Dream Company has set up a server that supports third-party hardware to watch the live stream. And recorded live streams, online and other media users are allowed to watch the live streams. Viewers can request first-hand videos of the matches on the official platform. Brother Jew replied calmly. It seemed like he had already read the news. So, you found out about it again? Xiao Tan replied with disappointment. Isn't that obvious? Feng Bujua chuckled. Why do you think this is exclusive news when the whole world knows about it? He was right. Although this news was only announced this morning, it had already become a well-known old news by the evening of the same day. Hey, you were the one who said that when I'm not online, I'm basically rushing out my manuscript, right? Xiao Tan continued. I thought you didn't have time to browse the game forum. I didn't browse it. Brother Jew replied in a non-committal tone. I'm only browsing the Dream Company's official website and forum. Every few hours, I'll refresh the webpage and take a look. Xiao Tan laughed dryly. He was too lazy to complain about this guy. Then, I've been thinking about something today. He changed the topic and asked, after the match is broadcasted, will our team's ability be exposed? Actually, it won't affect us. Feng Bujua replied. There are tens of thousands of teams participating in the competition. An anonymous team like us won't attract much attention. Even if someone coincidentally watches one of our matches and discovers that we are very strong, it doesn't matter because there are thousands of match recordings being generated every day. If the viewer doesn't know the team name, they won't be able to find our other matches in the vast number of recordings. Of course, if he really wanted to investigate, there was a way. First of all, they had to input all the S2 match recordings from the past in days into the computer. Then, using one of our team's matches as a benchmark, they digitized and conceptualized the various images we saw in the scenario. Following that, the AI filtered through a certain pattern using a binary perspective to find every team that performed similarly. In this way, the scope will be greatly reduced. However, considering the large number of teams participating in the competition and the inherent flaw of a vague search, the final screening work still needs to be done manually, and it may not be 100% accurate. Can you be more direct? It was not that Xiao Tan did not understand, but he knew. Behind every long speech from Brother Zhu, there was often a more direct version. The former was used to explain things to normal people and also to show off, while the latter was a simplified version that gathered Brother Zhu's wisdom and was meant for smart people or idiots. To put it simply, Feng Bujue smiled and continued. Other than a large gaming studio with ample resources or a fanatical group of programmers and players, no one would be able to identify an anonymous team among so many other teams. Wouldn't it have been easier if you had said that from the beginning? Xiao Tan replied. If you had thought things through from the beginning and not asked me, that would have been the best, Brother Zhu replied. Xiao Tan knew that there was no way he could beat Brother Zhu, so he quickly said, "All right, let's not talk about this anymore." He paused. "Oh, by the way, Xiao Ling will be staying at home for the night. She won't be online, so we don't have to wait for her when we queue up later." Since Underworld Frontline's practice was to queue up 2 consecutive matches before and after midnight, the match on the 20th was already over, so there was no harm in not coming online that night. Speaking of which, Misson seems to be in the game right now. Feng Bujue confirmed in his social tab as he spoke to the other party. She's been working hard lately. He paused for a second before continuing in a slightly dissatisfied tone. As for Ruoyu, she should be online later as well. There's a TV show that she likes to watch tonight, but she insists on watching it live with commercials. Then, how about we queue up first? Xiao Tan suggested. No, I have an appointment with someone tonight. Feng Bujue rejected. Just as I said that to you, he came online. He licked his lips, and his expression shifted. After I'm done with this, I'll contact you. 20 minutes later, inside a certain scenario, the place was a flat plain. There was no rock, no sand, and the ground was solid. It was noon. There was no fog, no rain, and the wind was light. Under the warm sunlight, 2 figures walked over from 2 different directions. They were two players who had agreed to fight each other in the 1v1 killing game. To be honest, I'm very surprised. When he was 5 meters away from the other party, Shiva stopped and spoke first. Even at this moment, you're standing before me. I still find it hard to believe. Why? Feng Bujue asked with a smile. Because I don't look like the kind of person who would actively challenge others? Not don't look like you, you're not, Shiva replied. Ha! Feng Bujue's smile grew. I can only say that you don't know me well enough. Oh. Shiva was confused. Why do you say that? There is no question of whether I look like you or not. Feng Bujue paused for half a second before continuing. I could be any kind of person. He opened his arms and revealed a wicked smile. Because I'm not any kind of person. Is that so? Shiva shook his head with a smile. Fine. Let's end the discussion about philosophy. As he spoke, he took out his sorcery weapon, Heavenly Hourglass. No matter what kind of person you are, or whether you are a person or not, as long as you ask for a battle, I will fight you until the end. Huh? Brother Zhu silently took out Death Poker. Looking at your excited state, you must have been looking forward to this battle for a long time. There's a limit to the improvement you can get from practicing with people you are familiar with, Shiva said. You should know that as well. Yes. Feng Bujue nodded. Since you're an understanding person, I'll be frank with you. His expression turned serious. Shiva, you are very strong. The reason I chose you for this battle is to push myself to my limit and break through it. Humph! Shiva scoffed. Same here. Very good, then. When Phone Bujua said the second half of the sentence, his body flashed. Let's begin. Chapter 940. The two, who had reached the peak of perfection, started a shocking battle. The battle started, and the murderous intent boiled. Spirit energy burned, and the sun lost its color. But the heavenly hourglass split into 8, and they hung in the air. The death poker gathered, but did not release it. It condensed at the tip of his finger. Shiva did not move, but he already had the momentum of a mountain. Without realizing it, he tapped lightly on the ground, and lightning appeared. In that moment, their gazes met, and their figures crossed each other. Attacks and defenses that were like a storm were launched at a speed that the naked eye could not follow. In just one breath, more than 10 rays of light shot out. They were the 8 stone plates of the heavenly hourglass. They fired more than 10 rays of light at Phone Bujua from 8 different angles. Brother Ju, on the other hand, relied on spirit transformation to evade all the light beams. He used the light card that he carried between his fingers to launch a high-speed close-range combo at Shiva. Phone Bujua's hands that held the cards danced in the air, and he executed exquisite slashes. The attacks looked chaotic, but there was order and sharpness in the chaos. Name: Card Assassination Skill Card Attribute. Passive skill, permanent, skill type. Fighting effect. When using card-type weapons to engage in close-range combat, speed, strength, and accuracy increase by 300%. Prerequisite: Fighting S Remark. A unique skill that the former Karnfell member, Oswald, specializes in. After reaching a certain level, he can use normal cards to cut through human bodies and end the opponent's life with a series of attacks that are intertwined with beauty and blood. This level S fighting skill was not something that Phone Bujua had found in any scenario, and it was not something that he had purchased from the thriller box. It was something that he had learned when his fighting mastery reached level S. Even though he had learned this skill for some time already, in most of the previous scenarios, Brother Ju did not equip Card Assassination. After all, there were only 12 slots in the skill bar. In a team scenario, he preferred to equip skills that were more strategic. However, the battle before them was an exception. This was a hand-to-hand combat. There were no tricks or third-party factors, so Brother Ju didn't need to bring any skills that weren't related to fighting. What he brought were Card Assassination, Body Enhancement Technique, Modified, Demon King's Inferno Scorch, Jeppo, Rankyaka Sandstorm Rotation, Energy Cannon, Wild Ball Fist LV Tint, Devilish Child's Lower Whip Kick, Telepathic Finger, Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist, Summon, Ma-Sun. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary players, this was already an extremely luxurious combination of skills. However, as the top player in Brahmin, how could Shiva be inferior to Brother Ju, who was a casual player? Let's look at Shiva's skills: Frowny Face, Invulnerable Spear. Active. Under the premise of not losing speed, gain extremely high physical defense for 10 seconds. 1 slap, 2 scatter palm. Active. Powerful palm strike. Root attribute. Active. Can only be activated when both stamina and sorcery are above 50%. After activation, both stamina and sorcery will drop to 20%, and all life points will be recovered. Fawn God's Force. Active. Uses strength from the fingertip to strike the target's nerves through the muscle. After accurate hit, the target will enter a state of numbness for a few minutes. Weightless Touch. Previously explained, see the skill database. Spirit Breaking Strike. Same as above. Light Smoke Passing. Active. Acceleration skill. Short distance movement. Tianba Sky Splitting Blast. Active. Rushes at the enemy and sends a target flying. During the charge, the objects in the middle will be knocked to the sides. Ash Protection. Passive. After using fire element skills or weapons to deal damage, gain a layer of armor equal to 5% of the user's maximum life points. Can be stacked up to 5 layers. Cooldown of 15 seconds each activation. Tyrant's Rage. Active. Can only be activated when using a long weapon. Attacks all the targets around you once, and the damage dealt will be converted into the user's life points. Moon-picking flame, active. Fire element, spiraling dragon. Powerful, good at defense. Slow down. Flying flame fist, active. Small power, fast long-distance flying tool. Both this skill and moon-picking flame could trigger the special effect of ash armor. Those were the skills that Shiva currently had. Even ignoring his ridiculously powerful sorcery weapon that came with 8 special effects, just from these 12 skills, one could see how powerful Shiva was. This set of skills could be used to attack, ambush, counterattack, crowd control, recovery, and exhaustion. No matter the situation, no matter what kind of enemy he faced, he would not be forced into a passive state. He had both offense and defense, and he knew when to advance and retreat. And all this information, Feng Bujue knew about it. In fact, even if Brother Ju did not use the data view to observe Shiva, he could have used other channels to investigate Shiva's equipment and skills. This was because Shiva was a superstar player, and he was one of those superstars. With the amount of attention he had received, his in-game character's data could not be hidden. All the players who had fought against him or entered the scenario with him, be it people from other studios or normal casual players, could have leaked information related to Shiva. Furthermore, there was the existence of the video of the competition. Of course, it could not be said that, due to the disparity in information, the competition was not fair. First, Shiva understood this situation. This was a disadvantage that all superstar players would face, and it was something that he was used to. Second, observing things through the data view was one of Feng Bujue's powers. No matter who his opponent was, he would be able to see through their data. So, let's stop talking about the basic skills of the two and return to the fight, TSK. I was too careless. 2 seconds after Brother Ju made his move, Shiva's expression shifted, and he cursed himself internally. At the same time, he silently activated the moon effect of the heavenly hourglass, crescent edge, and retreated quickly under the cover of the skill. The effect of this effect was, cover yourself with a layer of crescent light, and you will be immune to all physical and energy attacks for 10 seconds. Attacks with extreme power will be able to pass through the crescent light, but they will only deal 50% damage. After using it, the moonstone plate will shatter, and it will only recover after returning to the login lobby. Obviously, Shiva did not plan to use this skill at the beginning of the battle. It was not that he did not have other skills to deal with the situation before him, but he really did not expect Brother Ju to be able to reach such a level of physical skill without using body enhancement spell. Shiva had seen and studied Brother Ju's match during level 1, so he was familiar with some of his skills. To put it bluntly, Shiva had underestimated his enemy, and the price for that was he did not have the time to use other methods to deal with the combo before him, so he could only use Crescent Edge. Huh, you're going to use up a stone plate just like that? Feng Bujue saw this and laughed. I haven't even done anything yet. Brother Ju naturally would not give up this chance to pressure his opponent mentally. If you come to fight me with the mindset that other than Phantom Dawn, no one is stronger than me, Shiva, then it's pointless. He grinned wickedly. If you want to fight me, you'd better put yourself in the position of a challenger and give it your all to prevent both your mind and body from being destroyed. Humph! Shiva heard that, and his expression turned serious. Thank you for the reminder. He was not angry at all. If anything, he was happy that his opponent would say something like that to him. After all, he was an expert, and an expert would find a reason for their failure. They would accept criticism and opinions. As long as the criticism was reasonable, it would not matter even if the criticism was harsh. Ha. Shiva's reaction satisfied Brother Ju. The latter laughed coldly and said, "Very good. Then this time, I'll show you what it's like when I've only used a little bit of my strength." Before he finished, he moved again. For this second round of attack, Feng Bujue had used the instant strike from body enhancement spell, modified Flash. The card glowed brightly, and the aura swirled around it. Chapter 9:41. This time, Shiva was prepared, so he reacted quickly. He used swift smoke to increase his speed and moved out of Shiva's attack range. At the same time, he used impenetrable spear as insurance to prevent Shiva from following up with another attack. Obviously, Brother Jew did have something else up his sleeve. Based on the result of the simulation, he had at least 6 or 7 combos that he could follow up with. Be it using his kung fu to increase the pressure or using blade of absolute defense penetration to break Shiva's impenetrable spear, they were all tactics that he could use to gain the upper hand. However, the reality was that after Feng Bujue missed, he only smiled coldly and did not follow up with another attack. The reason why he made this choice was because he was very clear, under the current circumstances, the results of the zero-time difference calculation were not reliable. Ever since the battle for the Cape, Brother Jew had not fought Shiva face-to-face. In this period of time, how much Shiva had grown, that was not something that could be easily estimated. Even though Feng Bujue had the data from the data perspective and the analysis he had gotten from their last fight, such as the attack frequency, firing speed, and movement range of the Heavenly Hourglass, it was far from enough to estimate Shiva's full power. Humph, such an infuriating person. Several seconds passed, and seeing Brother Jew stop attacking, Shiva could not help but think to himself, I have to admit, this kid's battle IQ is shockingly high. In a battle of disadvantage, he can find a way to survive, but in a battle of balance and advantage, he is flawless. Indeed, Feng Bujue would not take the risk in a battle of balance like this, or rather, he was the type who would not make such a low-level mistake. No matter how arrogant he appeared on the surface, the caution in the depths of his heart would still insist on a bottom line of logic. If he abandoned this line, then the line between madness and stupidity would disappear. In that state, the slightest carelessness would lead to his death. He used the skill that increases movement speed and defense in one go. The cooldown for those 2 skills should be more than 1 minute, right? After a few seconds, seeing that Shiva did not move, Feng Bujue began to provoke him. What should we do next? Should he use the more reliable Flying Flame Fist to give himself some ash protection? Or should I use the Celestial Tyrant Transverse Space Rending Blast to gain the upper hand? Save it. The next second, Shiva replied without hesitation. You wish to bait me with this level of provocation? He continued unhurriedly. You did gain some advantages in these 2 probing attacks, but if we calculate the overall consumption of our skills, physical strength, and spiritual power, we're about the same. You're using words to give me a psychological hint. You want me to take the initiative to attack, right? Have I been seen through? Feng Bujue smiled awkwardly. This is a little awkward. With how thick-skinned he was, the awkward was just a joke. But it was the truth that his strategy had been seen through. The first half of Feng Bujue's words was to give Shiva the feeling that he had lost earlier and needed to turn the tables around. The second half was to lead Shiva to consider, how should I attack, instead of should I attack or defend. To put it bluntly, this was a classic bait, a plan to make the opponent attack as soon as possible. But in reality, if one thought about it calmly, they would understand that after the 2 rounds, neither of them had gained much of an advantage. Yes, Shiva had used a stone plate, but that could only be considered a forced mistake. Other than that mistake, both of them had used some skills, but neither of them had injured the other. Objectively speaking, Shiva, who had more skills on cooldown, should have been the one to drag the battle out. Feng Bujue, I have to thank you and Phantom Dawn. Shiva looked straight into Brother Jew's eyes and continued. Interaction with the 2 of you has changed me. It has allowed me to step into a realm that I have not been to before. As he spoke, he slowly moved forward. Now, I have a new understanding of my own power, experience, and skill. I don't dare to say that I won't be shaken anymore, but at least my confidence won't crumble as easily as before, and I won't be disturbed by your strange actions anymore. When he spoke, the remaining 7 stone plates of the Heavenly Hourglass opened up again. If you want to win against me, you have to show me something that will shut me up. I believe your words can be summed up in 4 words. Fight me head on. As Feng Bujue spoke, He took out the blade of absolute defense penetration and Bel's daily dagger from his backpack and the scabbard around his waist. He held the pair of daggers in his hands. I told you, your strange words will not affect me. Before Shiva finished, Brother Jew had already disappeared from his sight. This attack was different from the previous two probing attacks. The presence from before had disappeared, but the murderous intent had multiplied. When Fong Bujue reappeared, the cold glint of the blades in his hands had already reached Shiva. Finally serious, Shiva knew that his chance had come. Good timing. At that moment, with a thought, Shiva activated the special effect of the heavenly hourglass, Pure Land. In the battle for the cape, even Understanding Death, who was a top player, had been defeated by this skill. Within 1 minute, all enemy skills and equipment effects, including passive, will be nullified. What kind of F*King special effect was this? At that moment, Shiva saw that Brother Jew's killing move was about to land, and he knew that the time had come. With the effect of Pure Land, the two weapons in Fong Bujue's hands instantly turned into a normal dagger and cleaver. Due to the fact that he could not activate body enhancement spell, the power of his physical skills was greatly reduced. This way, Shiva's advantage became obvious. Kung Kung. After a short moment, the sound of two metal clashing could be heard. Shiva raised his arms and used the armor on his forearms to block the attacks from the blades. Even without the support of the special effect, the equipment's attack power is still not weak. At that moment, Shiva felt his arms go numb, and many thoughts flashed through his mind. The dagger's attack power should be extreme, and the cleavers are much weaker. But compared to that, what is more interesting is this kid's basic physical skills. With that thought in mind, his expression turned serious. Be it strength, speed, or technique, they're all top-notch, and the three have reached an ideal state of balance. Even I can't do this, humph. In the end, he has used it. On the other side, Fong Bujue naturally knew what his opponent had done. After the blades were blocked, his first reaction was to flip backward and glance at the game menu in midair. As expected, all the skill icons in the skill bar had turned gray. As for the equipment's special effect, the fact that blade must pierce defense did not penetrate the enemy's armor was a clear indication of the problem. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you won't live for more than a minute. 2 seconds later, Shiva raised the first flag in this battle. In the battle for the cape, I used this skill on Understanding Death. This time, I'll let you experience it. However, Fong Bujue's reaction was surprisingly calm. I've been waiting for this. When he said that, he had already retreated several meters. He put the cleavers into his inventory and took out something else. Pretending to be calm, is it? Shiva controlled the heavenly hourglass and charged forward. I want to see how you, who have lost your advantage in speed and have no defense, will block this attack. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of the stone plate shattering rang out one after another. At that moment, Shiva activated the heavenly hourglass's water effect. Cleansing ignores physical defense and causes a wave of mental corruption on an enemy. Within 30 seconds, the target will be inflicted with the cleansing status. Based on the target's terror points, a certain percentage of life points will be lost every second. Fire special effect, Hellfire, ignores all defense and defense, unleashing a sure-hit fire attack on a single enemy. The attack will deal both physical and mental damage, and the damage will depend on the user's sorcery mastery. And Wind special effect, Wind Judgment, summons Banaka's trident to unleash a physical attack on a single enemy. The attack will be imbued with lightning element, and the damage will depend on the user's fighting mastery. After use, the windstone plate will shatter, and it will only recover after returning to the login lobby. 3, 4, 5. Facing Shiva's relentless attack, Fong Bujue's face was as calm as water, and light flickered in his eyes. Even though he was struck by cleansing and karmic fire, at the first moment, even though he was suffering from intense pain both mentally and physically, he still calmly calculated the number of stone plates the other party had and efficiently made the most reasonable response. Looks like I can dodge this. After taking 2 hits, Brother Ju's eyes shifted slightly. He activated the lightning orb that he had in his hand earlier, Thunder Orb, and entered a state of 500% movement speed that lasted for 10 seconds. His judgment was spot on. Wind Judgment was indeed different from the other 2 skills. This special effect did not have the characteristic of absolute hit. As long as the first attack missed and lost momentum, the Barakawa's trident that was formed from the stone plate of wind would disappear. Therefore, Fong Bujue used his sudden increase in speed to successfully evade the attack and turned to run away into the distance. But how could Shiva give Brother Ju the chance to escape? He had already guessed that, for a player at Brother Ju's level, other than equipment and skill, he would have prepared several life-saving items. Therefore, when Shiva activated Heavenly Hourglass, he was like an arrow on the bow, waiting for Brother Ju to show an opening. Now that Fong Bujue had turned to escape, Shiva caught him in the act. In the next second, there was a loud bang. Shiva's feet smashed the ground, and he charged forward with a celestial tyrant space-splitting explosion. Fong Bujue also felt the ultimate attack coming at him from behind. He immediately took out Immovable Mountain and turned around to use the defensive force field to reduce the force of the punch by more than half. Of course, the knockback effect was still effective. Half a second later, Brother Ju's body was sent flying into the air. That's not right. This is... The moment his feet left the ground, Fong Bujue felt something strange, and he cursed internally. Did you notice? When Shiva finished his sentence, he used a speed that was faster than Brother Ju's to jump into the air. That's right. When I used Tianba's sky-shattering boom on you, I activated weightless contact. To put it simply, you're now a living target that won't fall from the sky. Even Fong Bujue had to admit that Shiva had done a good job, because those who were hit by pure land would not be able to move freely in the air. He used the knockback effect of Celestial Overlord's Great Bombardment and weightless contact to make the target continue to fly upward at a constant speed. Then he could activate the Stone Plate of Sky's special effect. Ride in the Sky, gain the ability to fly freely for 1 minute. After using it, the Stone Plate of Sky will shatter, and it will only recover after returning to the login lobby. He would catch up to his opponent and deal the final blow. If you don't have any other tricks up your sleeve, then it's time to end this. Several seconds later, Shiva was already in Brother Ju's path. He roared and used 1 slap, 2 scatterpalm. Shiva's chain of attacks, from start to finish, led the rhythm of the battle. Every attack was on the line between life and death, and Fong Bujue had no chance to catch his breath. And this was what Brother Ju was chasing after in this battle. He did not use Chuck Norris's razor and did not summon Blood Zombie God. He only used his other abilities to fight Shiva, and that was to force him into a corner. Only then could he break through his own limit. Glowing information floated in the air like a halo, and endless thoughts were like an invisible fog covering this large space. This was an illusory realm filled with flowing lights and vibrant colors. This was Fong Bujue's mind palace. What should I do? Should I try using Swift as the wind? That moment was so short that it could not be calculated, but in Fong Bujue's mind, it was so long that he could sit down in the mind palace and answer his own question. That's useless. Fong Bujue number 2 crossed his arms and stood to the side. He rejected Fong Bujue's suggestion. Even if I'm invisible, I'll still run into the opponent's palm due to inertia. What if I detonate the grenade to change my direction? Fong Bujue number 3 sat to the side and asked. It's too late. Fong Bujue number 4 used his finger to caress his forehead and the tip of his nose as he continued. Even if we can ignore the timing of the fuse and use the strength of the grip to detonate the grenade, taking into account the time needed to remove the grenade from the backpack and the time needed to remove the grenade from the grenade, it won't be enough. Furthermore, if I do that, even if I manage to avoid the opponent's palm, I'll be blown half to death. Fong Bujue number 5 paced around as he added. More than that, Fong Bujue number 3 added, the damage from Purge is still ongoing. If I'm not mistaken, when the damage from this skill finishes, I'll lose 30% of my life points. And that fire of sin has already burned through 40% of my life points. Combined with the heaven-dominating sky shattering blast earlier, the part that wasn't blocked dealt about 7% of the damage. One more grenade and you'll be dead, right? Phone Buju number 2 licked his lips. Then, can't you use the life points recovery potion to recover your life points and tank the 1 slap 2 scattering palm? Phone Buju number 3 suggested. Of course you can. Phone Buju number 4 answered. But even if you tank the attack, the situation will not change. Weightless contact is not the problem, the pure land is. Phone Buju number 5 added. There are still 29 seconds left. How many times can you tank the attack? So, Phone Buju number 3 said with a bitter smile. What should we do? What should we do? Phone Buju number 2 also laughed. What should we do? Phone Buju number 3 opened his arms. What should we do? Phone Buju number 4 shook his head. What should we do? Phone Buju number 5 raised his head to look at the sky. Then they all fell silent. Until the limitation imposed by the system is nothing more than data, right? Suddenly, another Phone Buju number 3's voice rang out. The other 5 Phone Buju number 3's heard and turned their heads around. In their line of sight, there was a birdcage-shaped cage. Inside the cage sat another Phone Buju. Since I can see through the truth. He revealed a wicked smile and looked at the other 5. Why don't I try to control the truth? Who? The power of the palm stirred up a gust of wind. Shiva's palm was almost touching Phone Buju number 3's back. In his heart, he was certain that he had won. Humph! In the end, you are weaker than I thought. However, at that moment, something unexpected happened. Chapter 942. A gust of wind blew, and his figure changed. The instant before Phone Buju met the opponent's palm wind, he actually kicked the air and leaped forward, suddenly changing the direction of his advance. What? Shiva's powerful palm strike hit the air. He couldn't help but lean forward. He was shocked. How is this possible? Pure land has at least 20 seconds left, let alone weightless contact. How did he change his flight path when his skills and equipment were ineffective? The second the two crossed each other, many speculations flashed through Shiva's mind. Another item effect, but I didn't see him take out anything new from his inventory or pocket. And those items that can be worn directly on the body are all considered equipment. Even if they have special effects, they shouldn't be able to activate them. Could it be that he did it purely through physical skills? That's not right. Stepping on air is meaningless in a weightless environment. Unless you step on something solid, you can't change direction no matter how strong you are. Shiva had plenty of combat experience. As he continued to speculate and deny himself, he used his instinct to adjust his posture and face the enemy again. However, when his gaze locked onto Phone Buju again, he saw an extremely strange scene. Rustle, rustle, rustle. They could only hear waves of annoying noises coming from Phone Buju's body. At the same time, Brother Ju's right leg, which had been fainting, had completely turned into a blurry, flickering stream of data. Humph! The completion rate is a little low. Phone Buju thought as he adjusted his posture in the air and stabilized his body. But it's good that I can use it successfully. The step of 0 to 1 is the most difficult. Once I take this step, it's a whole new world, huh? In the next second, a soft shout interrupted Brother Ju's train of thought. Shiva was shocked, but his limbs did not stop moving. He retracted his stance and instantly changed direction to deal with another attack. Huh! I've made the right choice in choosing this guy as my opponent. Facing the relentless pursuit, Phone Buju smiled happily and thought to himself. Sticking to the basic principle and flawless strategy forced me to reveal my weakness first. Being able to grasp the opportunity and use all his skills at the right time forced me into a passive position. In the end, with the support of that valiant strength, he relentlessly pursued me relentlessly until I didn't even have a chance to catch my breath and only had the strength to defend myself. Brother Ju could not help but give Shiva a thumbs up internally. Be it combatability, strategy, intuition, they're all top-notch. Bang! Chi! Even though Feng Bujue was praising his opponent, he did not hold back. He promptly used his left leg that wasn't turned into light to use Jeppo, twice to pull apart the distance between him and his opponent. Following that, he immediately retaliated with a Renkyaku, Tempest Kick. Feng Bujue, you always surprise me. By then, Shiva had regained his calmness. He moved fluidly in the air and dodged the slash from Jeppo. He said darkly, I don't know what method you used, but it looks like at least you have recovered the ability to use skills. He scoffed. Humph. This is the first time I've seen someone who can break Pure Land. You've really opened my eyes. I've not only broken Pure Land, Feng Bujue replied calmly. Even Purge and Weightless Touch, which have not completely lost their effect, are no longer effective. Oh, Shiva asked probingly. Then can I ask, what method did you use? He moved his gaze away and paused for half a second before continuing. Other than that, what is the connection between the method you used and your glowing right leg? Actually, Shiva was just asking. After all, it was free to ask, and he did not think the man would answer that question. The method. To his surprise, Feng Bujue really did answer. It could be explained in 4 words. Stage 2 Soul's Eye. His tone was calm, and he did not sound like he was lying. With regards to the strange state of my leg, naturally, it is the side effect of using Stage 2 Soul's Eye for the first time. What did you say? For the first time in that battle, Shiva's expression shifted. What do you mean by Stage 2? Huh? Feng Bujue laughed. It means what it means. He opened his arms and continued. Speaking of which, it is quite a coincidence. My Stage 1 Souls, I was awakened during the battle with you. Perhaps this is fate. I'd rather not have this unfortunate fate. Shiva quickly adjusted his expression and returned to his cold gaze. All right, I've answered your question, so... Then, Feng Bujue curled his finger at the man. Let not waste time. I haven't experienced your Stage 1 Soul's Eye before. Why don't you show it to me? Since you're so honest. If I continue to hide it, it doesn't seem right, Shiva replied and activated his Soul's Eye of Destruction. This Soul's Eye of Destruction was similar to Ruo Yu's Extreme Efficiency. It was a skill that needed to be actively activated. The longer it lasted, the greater the mental burden on the player. When Shiva activated the Eye of Destruction, his forehead would split open from the middle to reveal a vertical, red eye, and the effect of this eye was... Chirp! The moment he opened the Eye of Destruction, a red beam of light shot out from it and disappeared in a flash. This light was a fire element pure energy attack. There was no sign of it being released, and its speed far exceeded the speed of sound. When Feng Bujue heard the sound of the red light cutting through the air, his chest had already been pierced through by the light. So that's how it is. Feng Bujue lowered his head to look at the hole in his chest. He realized that the edge of the wound had been roasted at a high temperature. There was almost no blood leaking out, but that meant that the wound would not heal. His bronchi, spine, and lungs had been partially evaporated. The limbs below his chest naturally lost all feeling, and he started to fall to the ground. Unfortunately, the activation of this skill depends on the eye and has nothing to do with the marksmanship mastery. When Shiva said that, he flew toward Feng Bujue. Or else I would have trained my marksmanship mastery to level A or even S to ensure that this skill can hit the target's brain. 2 seconds later, Feng Bujue, who had lost part of his chest, started to speak. No wonder it is the Eye of Destruction. It does not look that big and normal, but it is extremely vicious and unstoppable. 2 seconds later, Feng Bujue, who had lost part of his chest, started to speak. Unfortunately, this skill cannot be used consecutively within a short period of time, and your confidence in its destructive power made you take the risk. Chapter 943. When Feng Bujue said that, he sounded calm and even cold. To others, it sounded like a comment, but in Shiva's ears, it sounded more like a declaration. Even though Shiva did not know how Feng Bujue had dealt with the damage caused by the Eye of Destruction, Shiva understood that when Brother Bujue said the words reckless, the scale of victory had started to shift. Chi! Chi! The next second, two sharp whistles echoed through the air. Sharp spiritual finger, sharp Fong immortal force. This was a battle between two level skills, a battle between two top players. Unfortunately, Shiva's actions were too slow, because, for a few seconds, he thought he had one. His thought was not wrong. It was not a mistaken judgment. Theoretically speaking, the wounds pierced through by the Eye of Destruction should not be able to heal. In other words, the moment the wound was hit, it had already completed the process of healing in an incomplete form. The attack from the Eye of Destruction could not be blocked and was difficult to dodge. It would not cause continuous bleeding, but it could not be healed with items or skills. It wouldn't be a big deal if the attack pierced through the limbs. At most, the player would lose a limb within a second. However, if the attack hit the organs, it would undoubtedly lead to the player's death. To put it simply, the power of the Eye of Destruction was just as Feng Bujue had said. It does not look like much, but it is actually extremely vicious and unstoppable. Therefore, when Shiva saw Feng Bujue's chest being pierced through, his first reaction was victory had been decided. As a result, he relaxed to a certain extent, and it was just these few seconds of relaxation that affected his reaction and movements. 1 second, just 1 second of difference in speed decided the result of this battle. Sharp spiritual finger hit the opponent's body faster than sharp Fong immortal force, and the position it hit was the shoulder. Perhaps this attack would not cause too much damage to Shiva's life points, but it successfully destroyed Fong godly force. After the shoulder was hit, Shiva's arm was naturally affected. The direction of his finger was pushed back by an inch, and the power that gathered at the tip of his finger was mostly gone in 2 seconds. Even Shiva had to admit that Feng Bujue's attack was ingenious. The man must have calculated his opponent's reaction speed and counterattack before he attacked. Impressive. The next second, Shiva laughed coldly and said, "Unfortunately, the power of this finger is not enough." After saying that, he reorganized his body in midair and used his other arm to counterattack with the moon-picking flame. And I thought I would be able to break this arm. Feng Bujue took half a step back in the air and easily dodged the opponent's attack that was slightly slower. In the end, it is only this level of damage. Light flashed in his eyes, and he soon came up with a reason. "Oh, I get it now. You are relying on Ash Amulet to hold on, right? You seem to know my skills like the back of your hand." Shiva used the opportunity that Ride in the Air was still active to chase after Han Fei. "You must have done a lot of research before challenging me." "Huh, who knows?" Feng Bujue replied with a smile, because he did not want to and was too lazy to explain to the man that he could see through the data. "Then you should know about the special effect of my remaining 2 stone plates." Shiva asked another probing question. At the same time, he used Flying Flame Punch to maintain the momentum of suppressing his opponent. On Feng Bujue's side, even though he could only move one leg, he skillfully used Body Enhancement Spell, Modified, and Jeppo to evade the attack. "Yes, I know," Brother Ju said as he dodged. The special effect of the stone plate of Sun, Corona, can give a teammate other than yourself a protective shield that has the same effect as Crescent. Obviously, this skill is useless in a one-on-one fight. He paused for a moment, secretly activated a skill, and continued. "But the stone plate's special effect, Annihilation, is indeed a tricky problem for me." His tone changed. "Of course, I believe that before I force you to the brink of death, you will not use that skill." Before he finished, a large purplish-gold spirit energy erupted from Brother Ju's back. "Ma son, show yourself." "Oh, you finally summoned this guy." Shiva raised his eyes to look at the giant shadow, and his expression shifted. "If I'm not mistaken, you plan to use this to increase your attack range and turn the tables in this battle, right?" As he spoke, he took out a katana. A katana with a length of 180 to 210 centimeters was called a katana, and it was an ancient weapon that appeared in the middle of the Edo period from his bag. But you should also know that If we're talking about long weapons, my decaying mist clears the sky is definitely not inferior to the spiritual weapon in the hands of your summon creature. Name: Rotten Mist clears the sky item type. Weapon quality: legendary offense points. Unknown element: poison special effect. Rotten Mist clears the sky will deal fixed poison damage to its user every second, and the damage is equal to 0. 15% of a user's maximum life points. The attack damage of Rotten Mist clears the user's current life points, and the lower the life points, the higher the attack damage. Every slash from Rotten Mist clears the user will unleash an invisible slash. The range of the invisible slash depends on how long the user is poisoned. The longer the duration, the larger the range. Enemies who are directly hit by Rotten Mist clears the sky will be poisoned instantly, and the severity of the poison depends on how many times the target is hit by Rotten Mist clears the sky. The basic poison after the first hit is 0. 2% of a user's maximum life points per second, and every hit after that will double the damage. Equip requirement: Fighting S, Sorcery Mastery unlocked, and you have completed at least 3 nightmare scenarios. Bound after pickup. Remark: no item or skill will be able to nullify or reduce the poison damage caused by Rotten Mist clears the sky. However, once the user dies or stops touching the item, all the effects will be reset. If you stay 1 kilometer away from the item for 12 minutes, you will be able to escape the effect of the poison. Those were the attributes of Shiva's weapon. And Fong Bujue was familiar with the characteristics of this weapon as well. At that moment, Brother Ju looked calm and collected, but in reality, he had lost his right leg, could not feel his chest, and had only 9% of his life points left. For someone like him, if he was hit by Rotten Mist clears the sky, one could imagine what would happen. Who would fight you with a long weapon? When Shiva reached him, Fong Bujue raised his mana to the maximum, and Ma Sun's golden body shone. Come and taste Ma Sun's ultimate skill. Chapter 944. Ma Sun's ultimate. When Shiva heard those words, he instantly thought of something. Could it be the legendary Super Death Ma Sun Golden Double Fist Hammer? The reason he could give Brother Ju this name was not because he knew all kinds of ACG knowledge, but because he had once done some research on Brother Ju's skills and equipment. Since Ma Sun was a summoned creature with rather obvious characteristics, it wasn't difficult to find information about it. To put it simply, all you had to do was search for the Psychic King. However, this was not the ultimate that Fong Bujue mentioned. Perhaps everyone had already forgotten, but a long time ago, Brother Ju had received a character quest, and it was called Accumulate All Summons to Use Their Skills 1,000 times. This quest was the follow-up to Use Summoning Skills and Successfully Summon Summons 50 times. But the difficulty and time required to complete it was much harder than the previous quest. This was because Brother Ju only had 2 summon creatures. Blood Zombie God was not counted because he was not summoned by the Summoning Mastery, and Musashi did not have any active skills. Therefore, these 1,000 skills had to be completed by Ma Sun Day. Furthermore, Ma Sun did not have the chance to appear in every scenario. Even if he did, in that limited 6 minutes, the original duration was 5 minutes, but due to the buff from the item, he could only use his skills 3 to 5 times. In conclusion, Brother Ju spent a long time before he completed this character quest, and the reward he received was Green Dragon Crescent Blade, the commander of all soldiers. The next second, Fong Bujue recited the mantra, and before he finished, a golden glaive materialized in Ma Sun's hand. 8 skills of spring and autumn, the ultimate glaive. At that moment, that was the first word that popped up in Shiva's heart. His surprise was to be expected. If Fong Bujue had summoned Guan Yu, it would have been normal for him to call out something like the 8 skills of spring and autumn, but why would Ma Sun know that? Haha, you look very surprised. Fong Bujue laughed as he controlled Ma Sun to slash with the glaive. This was the first skill of the 8 skills of spring and autumn. Mount Tai's weight. Oof. I hope you're not deliberately mystifying things. Shiva also used a long weapon, and as a player with level S fighting mastery, his fighting ability would not be weaker than a summoned creature. Therefore, without thinking, he raised Rotten Mist clears the sky to block. Duong, in the blink of an eye, the weapons clashed, and the sound of clashing echoed through the air. It would have been fine if he did not block it, but once he did, Shiva almost coughed up blood. This is preposterous. Even though Shiva had blocked the attack, his whole body was shaken by the force, and he lost 12% of his life points. This is just a grade D summon creature, but its destructive power has reached such a level. Shiva muttered to himself, "You actually didn't get knocked down." On the other side, Feng Bujua laughed. "Huh, amazing." Although he praised the other party, he didn't show any mercy. In the blink of an eye, Ma Sun turned his blade and slashed downwards, aiming for the enemy's wrist. This was the second skill of the 8 skills of spring and autumn, before flowers under the moon. This is not good. Shiva's battle instincts were very sensitive. Before the enemy's attack landed, he knew, if he chose to take this attack head-on, his weapon would be knocked out of his hand. However, in this dangerous situation, there was also a chance to counterattack. "Huh!" Shiva roared angrily and twisted his body. He turned his body parallel to the enemy's blade and used the momentum to counter with a tyrant's rage. Feng Bujue had already predicted Shiva's counterattack, and he ordered Ma Sun to change his attack. Good timing. In the blink of an eye, the crescent blade was pulled back. The blade faced the enemy and blocked the tyrant's rage, causing it to be knocked away. This was the third skill of the 8 skills of spring and autumn. Falling Sunday, he sure has a lot of ideas. Shiva was impressed by Brother Ju's ability to counterattacks. He understood that the key to the battle was whether or not the special effect of rotten fog clears the sky would be triggered. In such a fast-paced battle, not only was Feng Buju able to withstand the attacks, he was able to ensure that he was not affected by the poison. That was a testament to his skill in battle. Of course, there are still 5 more skills. Feng Bujue said as he moved, and Ma Sun's giant shadow moved with him. Before he finished, the blade flashed again. The blade in Ma Sun's hand drew a sharp arc, aiming for Shiva's blind spot. This was the 4th skill of the 8 skills of spring and autumn. Autumn wind under the fortress. Humph! Don't get carried away. Shiva laughed coldly and raised his blade to slash. This time, he used slash to slash and didn't block. Half a second later, the 2 blades clashed, and Ma Sun's large blade was deflected back. No wonder it is a legendary weapon. Feng Bujue's tone was still relaxed. You have more than 60% life points left, but the damage is already so high. If I beat you to low health, won't you be able to split mountains and seas with a wave of your hand? First, Shiva leaped forward, and the scroll in his hand appeared again. You have to beat me to low health. No problem. Feng Bujue added and suddenly increased his speed. He used 3 skills. Mu Mu Huang Huang. The galaxy is turning and song on all sides. Instantly, Mimi's fighting spirit rose like smoke, and the shadow of the blade rose like the sun. The blade in Ma Sun's hand danced until the sky changed color. His skill was fast, dense, powerful, and dangerous. In terms of skill, it was impeccable, but Shiva was not easy to deal with. The power of rotten fog clears the sky was that it became stronger as the battle went on. As the battle progressed, the attack power and attack range of this weapon could reach a shocking level. Chi chi chi. The blades clashed, and the sound of clashing metal echoed. In several seconds, Shiva had used his fastest speed to deliver more than 10 slashes, and his power shook the 5th, 6th, and 7th styles of the 8 spells of spring and autumn. After paying 30% of his life points, he had broken through all of Ma Sun's attacks, and he did not stop attacking Feng Bujue's real body. At that moment, the same thought flashed through both Shiva and Feng Bujue's minds. Now is the time. For Shiva, Skyride's duration was about to end. This slash was the last chance to decide the battle in the air. If he missed it, he would be at a disadvantage in the following battle. For Feng Bujue, His life points had been pushed to the limit, and there was no turning back. He knew that this slash contained Shiva's determination to decide the battle. If he wanted to find a weakness in an opponent of this level and take it down, he had to make use of this moment. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Shiva climbed up a few feet and took the upper position. He flicked his wrist and pressed down, sending out a huge, invisible poison chop with saber energy. This was not a normal slash. Inside the poison slash, Shiva had added in the skill Spirit Breaker Slash. This skill dealt very little damage to physical targets, like machines, but it was very effective against targets with spirits or souls. In other words, against my son, this skill would be most effective. My blade power and harmony have surpassed his, and my skill is effective against summoned creatures. Furthermore, I'm at a high spot, away from the light, and I can use the sunlight to disrupt him. When Shiva slashed, he thought to himself, no matter what his remaining 8 spells of spring and autumn is, it won't be able to cancel out this attack of mine. I've won. On Feng Bujue's side, he did not mind that he was at a disadvantage. In fact, he was waiting for the moment his opponent flew into the air. Ha! I was thinking about how to lure you up, but you chose to attack first. At that moment, Brother Ju revealed an extremely evil smile. Seeing this, Shiva shuddered, but he had already used his ultimate skill. Even if he was a horse in a narrow alley, there was no turning back. Today, let me show you what it means. Feng Bujue stepped on the air with one leg and flew up with Ma Sun behind him. All the martial arts in the world come from the rising dragon. Roar! A dragon's roar came. The blade of the crescent moon rose, and the ghosts cried. The two figures crossed each other, and a cloud of blood exploded. 2 seconds later, a black shadow fell from the sky, and that was one of Shiva's arms that had been chopped off. Ma Sun, on the other hand, sheathed his saber and stood upright, elegantly wiping away the blood on the tip of his saber. This was the final skill of the 8 spells of spring and autumn, Green Dragon Crescent Moon. And based on your performance in this battle, I can confirm that you are also someone who can observe Thriller Paradise from the data level. Based on your tone, it sounds like you are one as well. Hearing that, Feng Bujue also tried to test the waters. Huh, I wish, but unfortunately I cannot. Shiva chuckled bitterly. I found out about this power from Phantom Dawn, and I believe he was not lying. He soon returned to the topic. So, when you said the word rewrite, a light bulb lit up in my mind. All the information and speculation about you instantly joined together to form a complete puzzle. The few mysteries that have been surrounding you were solved just like that. Shiva raised his remaining right arm and extended 2 fingers. The 2 cornerstones of your rewrite are the 2 superhuman powers that you possess: super fast calculation and the ability to see through data. Without these 2 things, there is no basis for rewrite. He extended his 2 fingers and pointed at Feng Bujue's leg. If I'm not mistaken, when you were controlling Ma Sun to fight me, you were multitasking to rewrite the code on your leg. Until now, you have just finished the repair work. Clap, 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 clap. Feng Bujue started to clap for Shiva. Good, very good. His tone was happy, and his expression was like a teacher praising his student. I'm surprised. Shiva, who is known for his martial prowess, is so smart in terms of intelligence as well. Likewise, Shiva replied coldly. You are known for your cunningness, madness, and unpredictability, but in terms of martial prowess, you are superior to many other experts. That is truly creepy. At this point, the 2 of them fell into silence at the same time. Then there was silence and a stalemate. They both understood that the time to decide the victor had arrived. Bang! After the stalemate, the murderous intent appeared. Jeppo and a red shadow attacked. Feng Bujue chose to go straight for the center, and he made the first move. Ma Sun's summoning time was not up, and he still had the advantage in close combat. On Shiva's side, he only had 1 arm, and he could no longer use a long weapon like rotten mist clears the sky. It would be difficult for him to face this wave of attacks head-on. However, he did not take a step back, as if he was waiting for Fong Bujue to get close. 20 steps, 15 steps, 10 steps. In those short 2 seconds, Fong Bujue rushed over with shocking speed, and he was at a distance that Shiva thought he could attack. Chi! At that moment, the light from the Eye of Destruction shot out from the third eye on Shiva's forehead again. Just like last time, this light came without warning, and it was incredibly fast. However, the result this time was different from last time. What? Shiva's moving vision was excellent, but the moment the light shot out, Fong Bujue's body suddenly disappeared from his sight, and Ma Sun's giant golden shadow also disappeared. He dodged it. Shiva's first reaction was lightning fast. Where is he? His eyes darted about, searching for Fong Bujue. However, before he could find his target, a kitchen knife had already pierced deeply into his back. I'm sorry, but your intention has been predicted by me for a long time. The next second, Fong Bujue's voice came from behind Shiva. I know, you've told me so much because you're waiting for the second beam from the Eye of Destruction to be ready. He smiled. So I'll cooperate with you and create the best time for you to fire. And then he pushed the cleaver further forward. I'll send you on your way. You? Shiva's thought was, you are such a cunning person. However, he only had time to say one word before he turned into white light. Current quest completed. All main quests completed. You have completed the scenario. Automatic teleportation in 60 seconds. The system announcement appeared in Fong Bujue's ears, and it made him sigh in relief. Phew! He slumped to the ground tiredly and put away the blade of defense piercing. That was so close. He mumbled to himself. If not for the fact that I purposely gave him a fatal opening, perhaps he wouldn't have used the Eye of Destruction and would have used Annihilation instead. In reality, when Brother Ju was hit by the Eye of Destruction for the first time, he had already planned this trap. At the time, when Fong Bujue was falling, he had quickly reached his hand into his inventory and activated the special effect of Forest of Shadows, and that healed the wound on his chest. However, the cooldown of the forest orb was 24 hours, and Brother Ju could not guarantee where the second beam would hit. If it hit his head, he would die on the spot. Even so, Fong Bujue still boldly placed the key to victory on his opponent's second beam of destruction. After a few exchanges of blows, Fong Bujue purposely gave his opponent a perfect chance to kill him and took a great risk to meet it head-on. Victory or defeat, everything depended on that moment. If Fong Bujue misjudged the timing of the beam, he would die on the spot. If Shiva did not use the Eye of Destruction but chose to circle around and use the special effect of the Stone Plate of Destruction to decide the winner, then Fong Bujue would probably lose. If Brother Ju wanted to win, there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance. He had to activate the special effect of Swift as the wind at the moment the light beam shot out to force himself to perform a warp jump. At the same time, he had to dismiss Ma Sun. Only then could he suddenly and completely disappear from the enemy's sight. Only then would he have the chance to ambush Shiva from behind in the 1 or 2 seconds before the latter's brain could react and end the battle with one slash. Without the razor and bloody corpse god, it is indeed quite difficult. After sitting on the ground for about 10 seconds, Fong Bujue held his head with one hand like he was trying to ease the headache. The risk and burden of using rewrite is much higher than I thought. He laughed bitterly and then sighed. Sigh, I still need to get stronger. 15 minutes later, inside the Brahman's conference room. Boss, how is it? Brahma asked impatiently when he saw Shiva. From your expression, I know you've lost again. Vishnu laughed. Shiva shook his head and walked to the table to sit down. Other than himself, he told the other 4 in the room, Yes, I've lost again. Fong Bujue is really that strong? Yama looked at Shiva and asked with confusion. Very strong, Shiva replied. At least from the result before us. He is stronger than me. Isn't he? When he said that, there was regret in his tone. Obviously, he had not walked out from the feeling of defeat. Boss, could it be that you were plotted against by him? Great Brahma asked. No, Shiva replied. Shiva replied. He just used his tactics well and ended the battle before I had to use all my trump cards. So, boss, you're the stronger one, Brahma replied. How strong a player is not determined by what kind of equipment, skill, or ability he has. At that moment, the fifth person at the table spoke. It is determined by who he can defeat. His eyes scanned the other people's faces. Today, he has defeated Brahman's number one player. So he is a man who is stronger than Brahman's number one player. No matter how you look at it, that is what I think. This young man who spoke with an air of Chinibu had the in-game nickname of Azura. He was a new player that Brahman had been secretly cultivating after the S1 competition. Since the creation of his account, Azura had only queued together with his colleagues in the studio or even solo. His ID was reserved by the studio, and his personal information in real life had never been released on Brahman's official website. It wasn't until the start of the S2 preliminaries that the ID Azura entered the public eye, because his name had appeared on the list of Gods One. Of course, so far, he had been a substitute and had not participated in the competition. Only the upper echelons of the various gods knew exactly how strong he was. However, there were already a lot of rumors going around. This young genius player was the secret weapon that the gods were grooming to win the S2 championship. As a mysterious character who had no information on him, in the later stages of the competition that was based on information, he would be a surprise weapon. At this stage, the other gaming studios had already set their sights on this brat. They all spread out their intelligence networks, hoping to find some players who had queued together with Azura in order to get some basic information about this person. However, Brahman had done a good job of keeping this a secret. No matter how hard the outsiders try to find out, it would be a waste of effort. Sigh, boss, your nephew really doesn't give you any face, Brahman said to Shiva with a smile after hearing what Azura said. I'll say it again. Shiva held his forehead and shook his head. He is my cousin. I'm not even 30 yet. Don't call me an elder. Okay. You'll always be 25, Brahman said with a shrug. Also, I say Xiao Xiao. Shiva dragged out his voice and looked at his cousin. You are already 17 this year. You should be graduating from middle school soon. Titles like that, man. Shiva sighed. Stop nagging. This is my style of speech. Xiao Shu pouted and replied with a look of dissatisfaction. This style of speech is called middle school. Yama turned around and gave a brief comment. Huh? Xiao Shu's expression changed instantly, and he did not know what to say. Having difficulty communicating with females, that fits the setting of middle school as well. Vishnu jabbed at Azura from the side. Isn't it only limited to young and beautiful females? It shouldn't be a problem for females below 10, above 50, and even dinosaurs, right? Yama said seriously. You're just trying to make yourself look better. Vishnu's lips twitched. Sai, what is the purpose of this meeting? Shiva looked at the people around the table who started to chat without holding back, and he could not help but mumble to himself, should I interrupt them to explain Fong Bujue's situation, or should I follow this atmosphere and join the endless banter and personal attacks? Chapter 946. At the end of September, the preliminaries of the tournament for the best S2 were in full swing. The live stream and recording of the competition had officially started. Even though the gathering of the heroes would last until October 25th, most of the teams would have their final score decided in the first 36 days. Therefore, if the preliminaries were to be compared to a long-distance race, then it would be the latter half of the race. Looking back at the competition schedule for the first half of the month, it could be described as uneventful. Other than the close combat between Zombie Blade's first team and Regulation's first team, there were no other encounters between strong teams. Generally speaking, most of the professional teams advanced triumphantly and won their matches like a hot knife through butter. At this stage, the casual players at the lower levels of the game seemed to have realized that the point system was crueler than the elimination system or the winner-takes-all system of S1. Under such a system, the teams that could enter the semifinals had to be strong teams. The teams that trained hard before the competition had no chance at all. Therefore, starting from mid-September, there were dissatisfied voices on the forum. The Dream Company system doesn't give casual players a chance to advance. Can't you play if you're not a professional team? Going against the masses is shaking the foundation of the game, and so on. Posts with strong resentment popped up one after another. Dream Company's official response to such voices was righteous. The customer service department even replied, "Dear, let me use basketball as an example. If you find 3 to 5 basketball fans and you can achieve better results than 5 professional basketball players in a basketball game, then there is a problem with the competition system." Yes, Dream Company had such an attitude. They had always had such an attitude. On the morning of October 10th, more than 70% of the participating teams joined the queue and started their 36 preliminaries. Almost all of the pro teams had announced their final results in the preliminaries before dawn on this day. Order, Team 1, Team 2, Team 4, Gods, Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Blades, Team 4, 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 Team. It was just that. Since each studio would update the results of their teams in real time on their official websites every day, when the dust settled in the last 3 minutes, there didn't seem to be much of a surprise. However, as the saying goes, postpartum confinement bends over the 9 prefectures. Some families are happy, while others are sad. There were teams that won all the matches, and naturally, there were teams that did not win all the matches. Among them, the most depressed was probably Zombie Blade's first team. It was reasonable to say that their strength was not inferior to those teams that had won all the battles. Unfortunately, they just had to meet with the first team of Order once, which directly caused them to enter the second echelon. Although there was a high chance of entering the semifinals with 105 points, that defeat was still a shame that could not be erased. Let's talk about our Underworld frontline. Their results were exactly what Feng Bujie had predicted, a complete victory. Furthermore, this result was achieved even though Brother Ju had been sitting on the bench for a long time. Of course, since the official website had yet to announce the names of the teams that had advanced to the semifinals and the points of each team, it would only be announced 1 week after the end of the preliminaries. Underworld Frontline was still an unknown team. It was worth mentioning that starting from October 8th, the Dream Company removed the privacy protection option in the matches. In other words, every team would have at least 3 videos of their matches in the preliminaries. Faced with this situation, Brother Ju came up with a very cunning response. Under his instructions, Blood Corpse God was the main force in the last 3 matches of Underworld Frontline, and Xiao Tan and the others tried their best to hide their strength. This way, even in the semi-finals, the information on the members of Underworld Frontline was still a mystery. Even if their opponents studied the videos of their matches, the only conclusion they could come up with was that this team had an overpowered summoned creature. That was all. October passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was late autumn. On October 25th, Gathering of the Heroes ended. However, the Dream Company did not immediately announce the results of the preliminaries. Instead, they used statistics as an excuse to delay the results of the preliminaries for a week. In these 7 days, the Dream Company held a product launch and launched an economical gaming cabin. They also took the opportunity to announce that Crazy Thinking 1.0 official version had been developed and would be released after the end of S2. At the same time, they also held a Halloween-themed offline event. In short, they did not mention anything about S2. These actions confused all the players and even many of the media outside. It also made many teams who were looking forward to the results of the preliminaries anxious and unable to eat or sleep. As the saying goes, strike while the iron is hot. However, The Dream Company did the opposite. They had an entire week of intermission between the preliminaries and the semi-finals of S2. Without a doubt, this was Woody's idea again. Sometimes, in order to maintain the popularity of a matter, it was necessary to cool down appropriately. This was called tension and relaxation. As expected, on November 1st, when the Dream Company's official website updated the announcement, it immediately set off a wave of frenzy for S2. On that day, the rules for the second stage of tournament for the Best S2 Battle of the Four Worlds were released. However, before that, the focus of everyone's attention was obviously on the list of qualifiers and the ranking of points. According to the data given by the system, among the 256 teams that successfully passed the preliminaries, the lowest score was actually 104 points. In other words, out of the 36 matches, achieving 34 wins and 2 draws barely squeezed into the semifinals. Teams that had lost one match could only advance if they won all the remaining matches. As for teams that had lost 2 matches or had 1 loss and 1 draw, they would have to say goodbye to each other. What was more surprising was that among the 200 teams that advanced, there were more than 70 non-professional teams. Moreover, 8 of these teams were in the top 100. This data also made those who were dissatisfied with the competition system shut up. They were all non-professional players, but they could win all the matches, lose 1 match, or draw 1 match. However, with a 50% win rate, they complained that the competition system was unfair. Of course, among the top 100 teams, the number of professional teams had the absolute advantage. These 100 teams all finished the competition with 108 points, and the system ranked them according to the system's ranking mentioned earlier. It calculated the various points lost, time used, skill points gained, and so on. In the end, the team that was ranked first was Brahma Team 1. This time, they really had their heads held high. They had beaten their old rival, Regulation, and claimed the top spot on a ranking that had a lot of credibility. The 5 monsters from Regulation were ranked second. This result undoubtedly made the management of Regulation very unhappy. The dream combination of Thriller Paradise's #1 player and 4 masters of Drunken Life was surpassed by their rival on such a crucial ranking. Someone had to take the blame for this, right? Therefore, Understanding Death, who was the team leader, voluntarily stepped forward to do a deep self-reflection with the higher-ups. It's all my fault. I didn't lead well. It's such a big competition, but we only got second place in the preliminaries. As the team leader, I should bear the main responsibility. Dialogue like this, which made people not know whether to laugh or cry, was the main content of his self-criticism. Other than the competition between the 2 old teams, starting from the 3rd place, the ranking was quite interesting. First, the team that was ranked 3rd was called Trash Alliance. This kind of self-deprecating team name obviously did not belong to any professional gaming studio. Furthermore, they only had 3 videos of their matches. This meant that they used the anonymous function throughout the preliminaries and did not rejoin the team after the 36 matches. This kind of mysterious dark horse naturally attracted a lot of attention. However, after looking at the list of members of this team, the sense of mystery disappeared. This was because of the 5 members of this team. 4 of them were experts who had made it into the top 50 in Division S1. They were, respectively, Uncle Worthless, Hong Hu, Shadow King, and Tired Dream. These 3 were all famous professional players, so there was no need to elaborate further. As for Tired Dream's identity, it had long been made clear to everyone. The former Zombie Blade ace, and now he had also joined the ranks of professional players. Looking at the next few names on the ranking, Jianghu, Blades, Red Sakura, Underworld Frontline, and then Hyodi. After that, Zombie Blade's 2nd team, Regulation's 2nd team, Brahman's 2nd team, Heaven and Earth, that's right, Hyodi. The Hyodi, led by a Tobi-sama, had won every single match in the preliminaries of tournament for the Best S2. And from the overall result of the 36 matches, they were ranked ahead of Zombie Blade in Unit 2, just behind Underworld Frontline. Even Feng Bujue was shocked when he saw the list. However, from an outsider's perspective, Hyodi was a team that came from a gaming studio. Furthermore, the Mingnan trio was already famous, so this team could not be called a dark horse. After looking at the member list, the real dark horse in people's eyes was Underworld Frontline. Other than Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji, the other three members of the team were all nameless players who had no information on them. Even Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji were not professional players. They were a team that did not belong to any gaming studio. They were a team made up of casual players, and they had made it into the top 10 of the preliminaries. Before anyone realized it, Underworld Frontline seemed to have become the main team in most casual players' hearts, and they had become the focus of many gaming studios' research. November 2nd, midnight, somewhere in the countryside of City S. Phew, it's already late autumn. A middle-aged man wearing an old man's hat and black-rimmed glasses walked leisurely to a lamppost and sighed toward the sky. "I say, Vice Leader Chi." Not far away, a young man walked over, calling me out to the countryside in the middle of the night. "You're not planning to kill me, are you?" Chi Ji raised the brim of his hat and smiled at Brother Ju. "If I want to kill you, do I need to pick the occasion?" "That's true." Feng Bujue also smiled. "Based on my deduction, you found me a 9-subject job?" "No." Chi Ji immediately denied Brother Ju's deduction. "There's indeed a 9-subject job here." He raised his hands to make quotation marks. "But it's not for you. It's for me. A vice leader like you has come out to do this?" Feng Bujue's eyes shifted slightly, and he started to look around cautiously. Could it be that the Baltan people have already invaded Earth? Okay, it's just a small matter. Don't make a fuss. Chi Ji cast a disdainful look at Brother Ju. "Wasn't it Halloween 2 days ago? There are a lot of things going on outside, so the department is a little short on manpower these days, so I can only come out to run errands." "Oh," Feng Bujue said. "Then you asked me to come to help you." "No, I have something else to ask you." Chi Ji replied. "It's just that I can't leave because I have work here, so I can only ask you to come." "What is it?" Feng Bujue asked again. "The 10 years' worth of martial arts I gave you. It's about time to get it back." Chi Ji continued. "Huh?" Feng Bujue was shocked. "So I have to pay it back?" Before he finished speaking, he instinctively took 2 steps back. "Wait, is there interest? Kid, do you think I'm a loan shark?" Chi Ji shrugged and then explained, "I took back the martial arts because you don't need it anymore." "How do you know?" Feng Bujue wondered. "When I came to see you last month, I found that the power in your body had almost been diluted." Chi Ji replied, "But that power didn't fuse with my spiritual energy. Instead, after it finished using my spiritual energy, it removed it from its source to ensure its purity." "Oh, my power has quite a lot of integrity." Feng Bujue seemed to understand the other party's meaning, so he took the opportunity to complain. "Whether it has integrity or not has nothing to do with me." Chi Ji continued. "In short, I have to extract the spiritual power from your body again. Otherwise, it will become a burden to you." At this point, he looked up and down at Brother Bujue with a rather strange gaze. Presumably, when the spiritual power in your body is completely removed, the power that you have awakened will also reveal its true nature. "Oh, so that's why you called me to this place." Feng Bujue seemed to have noticed something from the other party's words and expression, and smiled evilly. If the true nature of my power is some kind of demon king's power that can destroy heaven and earth, you will directly doom me in this place where there is no one around, right?" "Yes." At this moment, the smile on Chi Ji's face was completely gone, and his expression was cold. His answer was concise and comprehensive, sonorous and powerful. Chapter 9:47. Ladies and gentlemen, for this month's preview, there are a few things that I need to focus on. Basically, they are all related to the side story, Thriller Paradise, Halloween Adventure. Since the timeline of this chapter is coinciding with the side story, I will first talk about a bug in the side story. That is, Brother Ju in the side story did not explicitly tell Ruo Yu about spiritual power. Of course, when I wrote it a year ago, it was not there, but after a year, the plot of this chapter has been pushed to this stage. For this, I must apologize. Since the side story has been printed and published for a long time, it is not possible to change it. As a strict person, I am most troubled by this kind of irreversible bug. Since this bug will not affect the plot of this side story, please ignore it. To be honest, when I talk about this side story, I still feel depressed. Last June, in the chapter titled, "Thank You, Everyone," I said about the side story. Due to business considerations, my writing will be limited, but I will still try my best to write an interesting story, so please do not worry. Actually, at the time, I wanted to write a story that had nothing to do with this chapter. It was a mystery story titled "The Second-Rate Detective and the Cat." Unfortunately, my plan was rejected, and I was asked to write a short story with many characters from this chapter. Even though it was not something I wanted to write, but something I was forced to write, I still took responsibility for my work and tried my best to complete it. When I handed in the manuscript, I told a friend from Chidien that I could only give a score of 60. This score has not changed. But looking at it from another perspective, this regret and helplessness is undoubtedly a valuable experience. To be able to write under certain limitations and reach a certain level of skill is a professional quality that a professional writer should have. Even though the side story was difficult to write, it was beneficial to my writing career. It was a good experience. Back to the main topic, let's talk about this month's plot. The outline for the semi-finals of tournament for the best S2 has been prepared in my mind, and many team battles are about to happen. Feng Bujue's true identity and ability will gradually surface, but I think it's still too early to completely reveal it, since I plan to reach full attendance in July. The plot will unfold relatively quickly. Please wait and see. Also, starting from this month, Chidian's monthly vote system seems to have changed again. There are also some weird settings like the leaderboard. Anyway, I don't understand those messy settings. Here, I like to ask everyone to give their monthly votes to the writers who need them. Don't give your monthly votes to me just because I'm doing daily updates. If word gets out, it'll lower the industry's standards. I don't want to be a cancer in the industry. Thank you. Alright, after talking about some rather heavy topics and forsaking some principles, it was time to relax a little. Write a poem. Write a poem. There must be wind. There must be meat. There must be hot pot. There must be fog. There must be beauties. There must be donkeys. Then, flourishing world harmony fan, flourishing world. Vermilion door wine, and meat hidden vermilion door. The dog on the chopping board swims in the copper pot. The boiling water evaporates into mist and dust. Orioles and swallows chase away the dandy. Snakes, rats, jackals, and wolves are everywhere. The poet riding on a donkey scolds first, and the words of a lunatic are not known to be true. Chapter 948. Qi Ji's process of withdrawing his spiritual energy was very simple. He just put his hand behind Feng Bujue's neck and held it there for about 5 minutes before he was done. Phew! Done. After Qi Ji drained Feng Bujue of his spiritual energy, he let go of his hand and let out a long sigh of relief. Feng Bujue was stunned. It didn't hurt at all to have my spiritual energy taken away. He looked puzzled. In comparison, why did it feel so good when you gave me your power? That was then, and this is now, Qi Ji replied. I won't go into the details of the theory, but let me give you an example. He thought for a few seconds and continued. A few months ago, when I transferred my power to you, it was like adding ice water into a pot of boiling oil. Just now, when I withdrew my power, it was more like unloading luggage from a handcart. Oh, I understand. Feng Bujue nodded. Now that I've unloaded my luggage, the speed of my handcart should be comparable to an F1 car, right? Qi Ji was stumped by the question. He rubbed his chin and took a few steps back. He looked at Feng Bujue from head to toe and then said, Are you constipated? Brother Ju narrowed his eyes and looked at Qi Ji. I'm just thinking, Qi Ji said. Right now, your spiritual sense is still there, but you have no spiritual energy. There are no signs of spiritual power awakening. He tilted his head and circled Brother Ju. I can feel some kind of power in your body, but I can't identify its source. It's not spiritual energy, nor is it demonic power or superpower. Oh, Feng Bujue replied and asked, could it be a power system that you don't know about? There's no power system in this world that I don't know about, Qi Ji replied. When he said this, his tone was steady, neither servile nor overbearing. Although his tone was not small, he was probably stating the truth. Hee, isn't the answer obvious? Suddenly, a wretched laughter was heard. At the same time, a man in a black suit and glasses suddenly appeared beside Brother Ju and Qi Ji and joined their conversation. Oh, it's you. Qi Ji glanced at Woody with a disgusted expression. Speaking of which, you've been quite active recently. I'm really sorry for the trouble I've caused you guys some time ago. Woody seemed to be very familiar with these immortal super experts of the mortal realm. They didn't even need to exchange names when they met. In the near future, I'm sure I'll cause you a lot of trouble. Please do your best. Sigh, shameless. Qi Ji shook his head and sighed. I thought that older people would think more maturely and speak more peacefully, but you seem to be an exception. Woody laughed. You're at least a few hundred years older than me, aren't you? And you still have the nerve to say that I'm old? Qi Ji continued. I'm sorry, but I've long been deified, Woody said as he used his middle finger to push up his glasses. Time has nothing to do with my mental age. That is to say, at this time, Feng Bujue said in a concluding tone, as long as you're alive, you'll continue to be a jerk. Feng Bujue, your point of view is as sharp as ever. Woody turned around and laughed. Well said, Brother Ju responded casually and immediately brought the topic back. Let's talk about the power in my body. He paused for half a second and continued. Just now you said the answer is obvious. Could it be he? That's right. Woody laughed. The power in your body comes from another universe. So, even Qi Ji can't recognize it. Another universe? When Qi Ji heard this, his expression changed. Wait. He suddenly turned his head to look at Feng Bujue. Are you from that side? Don't be nervous, Deputy Chief Qi. When Woody said this, he changed the way he addressed Feng Bujue as if to remind him of something. I can assure you that Feng Bujue was born and raised in our universe. He's not a transmigrator. Hey, that side you two are talking about. In the next second, Feng Bujue looked at the two people beside him suspiciously. What kind of setting is this? Could it be a parallel universe? As soon as he finished speaking, Woody and Qi Ji replied in unison, You'd better not ask about this. Whoa! Feng Bujue immediately showed a mischievous look. This is interesting. Looking at the two of your reactions, could it be that I'm hiding some shocking secret? There is, but it's not the time to reveal it yet. Woody turned his head to look at Brother Ju. Anyway, you could go back for today. I have something to talk to Qi Ji. You're sending me away just like that? Feng Bujue didn't seem to care. Okay, then I'll go back and test my ability. That shouldn't be a problem, right? There's no need to test it. Your ability is truth's fallacy. At this stage, you can't manifest this ability at all. Wu Di replied, You should focus on cultivating your hidden armor heavenly book. Even though you don't have any spiritual energy left to activate the spells on it, the Taoist techniques and metaphysics on it are all extraordinary. Learning it will be very beneficial. At this point, Woody seemed to have thought of something. He smiled wretchedly. I almost forgot. The Dunjia Heavenly Book is an orthodox martial art. It conflicts with your foundation. If you practice it alone, it will be easier for you to go crazy. There was a flash of white light on his spectacles, and he turned to Brother Ju with a wicked gaze. How about this? You pull Ryu to train with you. The two of you train at the same time, and you can use each other as a reference. Let's practice it together. Feng Bujue didn't smile at all. On the contrary, he looked at Woody with a pained expression. It's not like we're practicing the dry wood fire palm. Why are you smiling like a brothel keeper? Brother Ju said as he turned sideways and winked at Qi Ji. Okay, that's it. Deputy Chief Qi, I'll go back first. You guys have a good chat. Qi Ji nodded at him. Before you go, I'd like to remind you, if you see a red taxi on the road, don't get in. Even if it stops in front of you, don't pay attention to it. Just pretend you didn't see it. Feng Bujue hesitated for half a second. Got it. You probably guessed that the red taxi was the job that Qi Ji was responsible for tonight. So he didn't ask and turned to leave. 2 minutes later, when Feng Bujue's figure had disappeared into the night, Qi Ji spoke again. Humph. Truth's fallacy, right? No wonder his foundation is crooked. So that's why. Woody laughed. That's why I said, I'm going to trouble you again. Chapter 949, November 5th, 12 a.m. The semi-finals of tournament for the best S2, battling 4 worlds, started on time. The format of the semi-finals was similar to what Feng Bujue had predicted, elimination, and it was a single elimination round. No matter which team it was, if they lost one round, they would have to leave the competition. This format was undeniably cruel. After all, of the 256 teams that entered the semi-finals, the 156 teams that were ranked at the bottom did not get any prizes. And in the first round of the semi-finals, 128 teams would be eliminated. This meant that, after the first round, all the teams that were eliminated and did not make it into the semi-finals, in terms of material rewards, were no different from the teams that did not make it into the semi-finals. They would get nothing. But this was the competition. It was midnight, and Underworld Frontline had already formed their team. They joined the team on time. According to the rules, the matchups for each round of the semifinals would be announced 16 hours before the start of the competition, which was 8 a.m. the day before. And Underworld Frontline's first opponent was the second team of Zombie Blade. Their match was one of the highlights of the first round. In fact, it could be said to be the match with the most attention. There were 3 main reasons for this. 1, be it professional players or casual players, everyone wanted to know more about the power of this mysterious team from Underworld Frontline. 2, this match was the only one in the first round of the semifinals where the top 10 teams would compete. It was a direct confrontation between the 7th and 9th teams. 3, Sirue Group had already started their promotional campaign. Feng Bujue's identity as an author was known by more and more people, and he became the focus of the hype. The attention that he received had reached an unprecedented height. To sum it up, everyone wants to know how strong you guys are. Can you beat a professional team? Also, what would that lunatic do in the competition this time? Feng Bujue, level 50. Wang Tanji, level 50 like Rain. Level 50, Laughing Soul. Level 50, Flower on the Rock. Level 50, please select the game mode that your team wishes to join. You have selected tournament for the best S2, battling 4 worlds. Please confirm. Confirmed. Please select the spectator for this match. Confirmed. Your team has entered the queue, waiting for your opponent to be ready. Matching complete. Coordinating nerve connection. Generating scenario. Downloading. Please wait a moment. The smoke of war has just been settled, and blood is still flowing. Fierce battles are about to begin, and no one can wait. All the stars converge in the 4 realms. Their lofty sentiments surpass the 9 heavens in a single moment. Download complete. Welcome to tournament for the best S2, fierce battles of the 4 worlds. A scenario introduction is provided in this mode, and there is a chance of triggering hidden side missions and special world building. Reward for winning the scenario. Advance to the second round of the semifinals. The introduction of the scenario is about to play. The match will begin once it's done. Apart from the opening poem, oh no, the opening line was changed. The loading process of the semifinals was roughly the same as the preliminaries. Privacy protection option didn't exist in the later rounds of the preliminaries, which also saved them some time. Another thing to note was that the prizes for the preliminaries were given out on the 1st of November, considering that each team still had the possibility of receiving follow-up rewards. The prizes for the semifinals and finals, the physical prizes in the real world will be given out after the finals. As for the new version trial rights, they were temporarily unable to use it. However, the other rewards were already given out on the day the ranking was announced. Therefore, the 5 members of the Underworld Frontline had all received Perfect Grade Equipment X1, Excellent Grade Equipment X2, 1 million game coins, and Level 50 Direct Promotion. Of course, the reward of Direct Level 50 had its pros and cons. For Ruoyu, Xiaoling, and Xiaotan, it was fine because they had all reached level 49 in October, but Hua Jian was only level 44 before she reached the max level. Although leveling up directly would save her a lot of time, her mastery, skills, and equipment would obviously be out of sync to a certain extent. Under such circumstances, Brother Ju naturally invited her to the bench without hesitation. Based on Brother Ju's judgment, at least in this first match, Hua Jian would be at a disadvantage. After discussing Underworld Frontline, it was time to take a look at the second team of Zombie Blade. In this round, their 4 members were Triple Jade Assault, Water Display Assault, Rebirth as King, and Transmigration as King. In terms of IDs, the 4 of them followed Zombie Blade's usual style. There were all kinds of things that they didn't understand. As for the appearance of the 4 members, there was not much to introduce. The 4 of them had the same hairstyle, the same attire, the same expressionless face, and even the same body shape. However, in terms of the ability of the characters, the 4 of them were very different. After all, Zombie Blade's formation was made by AI, so there would not be any homogeneity between the members. First, the Captain 3 Jade Assault was a player who specialized in summoning. He had 2 Grade S summon creatures, and his fighting mastery was not bad. On the surface, he was in the top 30 of the individual player combat power ranking. Nowadays, many first-rate players have chosen not to show their names on the ranking, so some players who should have been in the top 50 have risen in the rankings. He was not to be underestimated. Then there was the Vice Captain Water Show Assault. He was an expert in marksmanship, and his mastery was more focused on one aspect. Even so, he was still in the top 50 of the individual player combat ranking. Then there was the Team Strategist Reborn as King. He was a support-type character who specialized in healing and sorcery. In the preliminaries, he would occasionally be a substitute, and he did not have many chances to perform in the actual match, but his basic role was clear. Finally, there was Transmigrated as King, who specialized in fighting. As the main fighting member of the team, Grade S fighting mastery was a must. His ranking in the top 40 of the individual player combat ranking was proof of his ability. That was the basic information of the second Zombie Blade squad. Even though they were a second team, objectively speaking, their preliminary result was higher than the first team. Furthermore, even if the members of Zombie Blade were not very strong, they would not be weak either. Their ranking on the player combat ranking could not be trusted completely. Due to the illegal use of drugs, their actual combat ability would be higher than the statistics indicated, and they would be harder to deal with. For the Underworld frontline, this first match was already a serious challenge. Chapter 950 AD 299X. A nuclear war destroyed the civilization on this planet. After completing the loading process, it was naturally followed by the introduction of the scenario. But the first 2 sentences of the introduction were filled with déjà vu. 98% of the world's population died in this war, and the remaining 2% of the survivors struggled to survive in the ruins and deserts filled with radiation pollution. Food, fresh water, a place to sleep peacefully. These things that were taken for granted have become luxuries that people fight for every day. When the narration reached this point, the screen before the players was still dark, and only the white text slowly rose. In the end, this world that was abandoned by technology surrendered to violence. Just as the narration finished, the background music suddenly started. You are shocked. What the F asterisk CK? When the first line came out, Fong Bujue was shocked. Fist of a North Star? But he immediately denied this speculation. That's not right. Isn't Fist of a North Star set at the end of the 20th century? But this is 299X. Soon, accompanied by the intense background music, the narration continued and answered Brother Ju's question. On this land of the apocalypse, countless men with amazing fighting skills have appeared. To fight for the position of the overlord of the apocalypse, they have written many epic battles on this bunny planet. Huh? Fong Bujue was shocked. Bunny planet? After 2 seconds of shock, he thought to himself, This is not even Earth. Then what's the point of talking about 11? Just as he was complaining in his heart, the background music stopped abruptly. The next second, Brother Jew felt his eyes light up, and he gained control of his body. Main mission triggered. Killed 4 members of the second Zombie Blade team. Fong Bujue was just about to confirm the situation around him when the system notification came. But thankfully, based on the actual situation around him, there was nothing he needed to confirm. Above their heads was the scorching sun. No matter which direction they looked, they could only see white sand dunes that stretched endlessly. As for his 3 teammates, they were not far away from him. The 4 of them were separated in 4 different directions, and the distance between them was about 3 meters. 2 seconds later, Xiao Tan turned around and asked in a tone that sounded like he did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Brother Jew, is this some kind of Fist of the North Star world?" "No," Fong Bujue replied thoughtfully. "After 2.25 seconds of thinking, I realized something." "Oh," Xiao Ling interrupted with interest. "What is it?" "This is the main universe." Fong Bujue's answer and train of thought were too jumpy. As soon as he said that, his 3 teammates all showed some doubts. Not only them, all the viewers watching the live stream were confused as well. Moments later, Ruoyu took 2 steps toward Brother Jew and asked darkly, "How do you know?" "The name of this semi-final is a very obvious hint," Fong Bujue replied. "The so-called Battle of the 4 Worlds is a hint that all the scenarios in the semi-final will take place in the main universe." "Huh?" Xiaotan widened his eyes, and he still looked confused. 4 worlds, main universe. That's not the same thing, right? The main universe of Thriller Paradise is roughly split into 4 worlds, Fong Bujue explained in a calm tone. They are respectively governed by the 4 pillars of divinity. Wait a minute. At that moment, Xiao Ling suddenly interrupted Brother Jew. "Captain, we are in the middle of a live stream. Many viewers are listening to you." She stopped there and didn't go any further, but the subtext was already very obvious. "Is it really okay for you to disclose such valuable information so casually?" "Actually, it's fine," Fong Bujue shrugged. "But you have a point." He smiled. "In any case, you just need to trust me. This is definitely the main universe. I'll tell you the details after this match." It's not convenient for me to tell you now." At that moment, Xiaotan narrowed his eyes and looked over Brother Jew's shoulder. "There seems to be a group of uninvited guests coming our way, and they don't look slow." When he said that, Brother Jew, Ruo Yu, and Xiao Ling all turned to look in that direction. Even though the 3 of them had different eyesight limits, they all saw what was coming in their direction in less than 3 seconds. "Whoa, the number of people. Oh no, that's quite a number of rabbits," Fong Bujue said with a smile. "The rabbit-shaped human setting is fine, but isn't this mohawk hairstyle a bit too?" Xiao Ling also grumbled. Not only the hairstyle, but the clothing is also very similar to that of the Fist of the North Star," Xiaotan said. "There are all kinds of huge, thorny metal accessories, oversized shoulder pads, handguards, and knee pads, meaningless belts, underwear worn outside, and navel exposed." While the group of rabbit aliens drove all sorts of strange motorcycles over, Brother Jew and the rest were constantly complaining about the appearance of the NPCs. Only Ruo Yu did not say a word. She just silently placed her hand on the sword at her waist. "Ee-ha! Ha! Lu. After a while, the rabbits finally came close. They let out strange cries as they surrounded the 4 people from the underworld frontline. This kind of build-up," Fong Bujue said with a pained expression. "Now that I think about it, it's a little embarrassing." A few meters away, Xiao Ling tugged on Xiao Tan's sleeve and asked softly, "Hey, I don't know much about Fist of the North Star. What will happen next?" Xiao Tan turned his head and replied, "They will probably drive the motorcycles and circle around us, kicking up sand and dust. At the same time, they will keep screaming and making all kinds of perverted expressions that they think are scary." Xiao Ling's mouth twitched. "What's the point?" Xiaotan said again. "1 is to set the atmosphere, and 2 is to stall for time." He paused for half a second before adding, Like this routine of mobsters appearing. It's just like the protagonist ripping off his clothes, the beautiful girl transforming, and the mecha combining. A long animation has to rely on this kind of detour. Just as they were whispering, the rabbits around them gradually slowed down their motorcycles and stopped one after another. When the dust settled a little, a 2-meter tall, not including ears and hair, rabbit planet alien with an unusually large body climbed out from the side of the sidecar motorcycle, commonly known as Bien-san or sidecar. With a ferocious smile on his face, he took a few steps forward with heavy footsteps. As he walked, he muttered to himself, My luck today is really good. For earthlings, I can sell them for a good price in the market. Brother Rabbit. 1 second later, Feng Bujue very consciously took up the role of the negotiator. He took 2 steps toward the burly rabbit man and raised his head to say, From what you're saying, it sounds like you're planning to capture the few of us and sell us off as commodities. The rabbit looked at Brother Bujue condescendingly and contemptuously, then sneered. Since you've seen through it, why don't you just surrender? Feng Bujue revealed a smile that was as warm as the spring breeze. I see. He licked his lips. By the way, I wonder what your name is and how I should address you? The rabbit replied. What? You're standing in my territory, and you haven't even heard of me. King Kakelu? The moment he said his slightly cute name, Xiao Ling almost laughed out loud, and Xiao Tan's face was also red. The audience watching the game, here the audience fixed their view on the underworld frontline side, basically burst out laughing on the spot. King Kakelu, right? Feng Bujue's expression did not change. He replied with a half-smile. Before you capture and sell me, I have something to report to you. Oh, what is it? A hint of curiosity flashed in Kakelu's rabbit eyes. Feng Bujue's expression changed, and he replied seriously, I'm not an ordinary earthling. As he spoke, he moved his hand to his waist. I'm a chef, huh? Kakelu was stunned for a moment, and he looked back at his companions. At this time, a tall and thin rabbit from the group of rabbits behind him who looked quite clever reminded, King, he said he's a chef. Oh, Kakelu nodded, then cast a disdainful look at Brother Bujue. I thought you were going to say something. He snorted coldly. Do you think you can be treated differently just because you have a skill? I'm sorry. We Bunny Planet people only eat carrots, and we like to eat them raw. The value of a chef here is no different from that of an ordinary laborer, or even worse. That's not what I meant. Feng Bujue shook his head and continued. Then what are you trying to say? Kakelu was a little impatient. He spoke faster, and his voice became louder. I just want you to know, as Feng Bujue spoke, he took out Belle's daily knife from its scabbard. I'm a man who can make rabbit meat taste like chicken. For the next 5 seconds, except for the sound of the wind and sand, no one spoke. This should be the silence after a cold joke. Regardless of whether the surrounding rabbits understood or not, the 3 from the Hell Frontline understood, but they did not laugh. I understand. 5 seconds later, Kakelu's face darkened, and he grinned. You dare to trick me? In the blink of an eye, as Kakelu shouted the second half of his sentence, he raised his fist. The fist, which was as big as a casserole, smashed down on Feng Bujue's head from top to bottom. This fist was powerful and heavy, and wherever the fist passed, there was a whistling sound of wind. Bang! A second passed, and the yellow sand exploded. Even though the punch did not land on Brother Jew, when it landed on the sand, it blasted out a semicircular hole about 1 meter deep. What? He dodged it? When Kakelu retracted his fist, he was shocked. That's pretty good. Before the flying sand dispersed, Feng Bujue's voice sounded again. Looks like Brother Kakelu is also a fighter? Stupid earthling. Before Kakelu could reply, a rabbit from the group spoke first. Our King Kakelu is the successor of the short-hair godly fist. There are countless experts who have been defeated by him. Hearing the words short-hair godly fist, Xiao Tan and Xiao Ling could not hold it in anymore. The 2 of them held their stomachs and laughed until their backs bent. If it was not for the fact that they had to guard against the attack that could come any time, they really wanted to lie down and laugh for a while. Phew! Phone Bujue took a deep breath and turned to his teammates. All right, stop laughing. I will count to 3, and I will fire a Rankyaku, Zhou Duan. The rest of you, take cover. Understood. Roger. Oh, Xiaoling, Xiao Tan, and Ruo you all responded. Then, Brother Zhu started counting. 1, 2. At this moment, the surrounding rabbits did not understand what this group of people wanted to do. They also did not understand what Brother Zhu meant by Rankyaku, Zhou Duan, so they did not react at all. But Kakalu seemed to have sensed something. 3. After the last count, Feng Bujue used the momentum to push himself up from the ground with one hand. He stood upside down and spread his feet horizontally. Using the strength from his waist, he spun his feet around like the propellers of a helicopter. While he was charging up his skill, his 3 teammates either jumped or crawled. They all moved away from the level where Brother Zhu's legs were at the same level as them. Therefore, when the circular slash spread out, the people in Underworld Frontline were not affected. But the rabbits were miserable. After this wave of Rankyaku, the rabbit people soldiers surrounding the players were almost completely wiped out. They were either cut off from the chest or decapitated. Only a few of them who were especially short or just happened to be half-squatting were still alive. Among all the rabbit people, only one person managed to dodge this attack with his own reflexes. That person, rabbit, was King Kakalu. T.H. 2 seconds later, when Kakalu crawled up from the ground, his face was pale. So you're also a striker. Damn it, I don't dare to call myself a striker. Phone Bujue stood up again and brushed the dust off his sleeves. Like the 6 styles, Devil King Flame Kill Fist, Southern Holy Fist, Crane Fairy Style. I only learned a little bit of it. How can I be compared to you, the successor of the short hair Godly Fist? Stop pretending. No matter how stupid Kakalu was, he could tell that the opponent was mocking him. So, he immediately roared and used his killer move. Die. Short hair 100 Splitting Fist. Thought you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.